Chapter 909. 260,000. Shirtsong Wang answered. His popularity was not low. What about you guys? Dingming looked at the other four. Huazi Bro's popularity was 230,000, Zijia Shinjun 360,000, Nintian 420,000, and Jianglin Er's popularity was much higher. She had 680,000. After all, she was a beautiful contestant and naturally attracted fans. Very good. Brother, you have a bright future. Ding Ming patted Shirtsong Wang's shoulder. I didn't buy a ticket just now. You can say that I got on your boat for free. Shirtsong Wang was suddenly energized. Yes. Brother Feng, help me. Ding Ming said again, but at the same time, you also punched me. I didn't take it to heart. So we're even, right? We don't owe each other anything. Shirtsong Wang's heart sank again. So, Ding Ming's expression was very ambiguous. He stretched out 2 fingers and rubbed them. If Shirtsong Wang still could not understand this hint, he should really go and tear off onions. Brother Feng, name a price. How much do you want to take me there? Ding Ming's face darkened. I didn't name a price. You wanted to name a price yourself. This was what Shirtsong Wang had said to the other contestants before. Now, Ding Ming had returned the words to him. Shirtsong Wang immediately smiled and said, Yes. It's my own idea. I won't ruin your reputation. Ding Ming said, That's right. There are so many fans watching the live broadcast. I don't think you'll regret it. Before Shirtsong Wang could speak, Huazi Bro flashed over. I'll pay 300,000. Brother, take me there. Zijia Jun hurried over. 350,000. Take me there. Tian was not slow either. I'll pay 400,000. Take me there. Jianglin could not sit still. 420,000. This price should be enough, right? Ding Ming's fans were happy again. I'm crazy awesome. A 2-level reversal. F***CKU. Boss's performance made my hair stand on end. He can do this. Excellent. Where's the guy who wanted to give Boss money? Come out. Boss needs him to transfer money? Damn, Boss's way of making money is really good. 66666. In the end, Ding Ming set the price at 500,000 star coins. 5 people would be 5 million star coins. This sum of money would be transferred to Shirtsong Wang through the connections between Donghong Shan and Ashma. Since there were so many fans watching, if you don't keep your promise, then I'll report you. After all, he was a lone wolf, but your Zhengxin Corporation was a large financial group. Be careful of your reputation being damaged, so I'm not afraid of you going back on your word. Of course, too, 5 million star coins was not a big deal for Wang Xilong and the others. After this stage, their popularity would increase by a lot. With popularity, how much money would they get? Ding Ming said, All right, now take off your clothes. The 5 of them were stunned. Why are we taking off our clothes? Ding Ming waved his hand impatiently. Just take it off when I tell you to. Why are you talking so much nonsense? Do you still want to go? All right. Wang Xilong had no choice but to take off his Iron Legion armor first, revealing a pair of grass underpants. I don't have to take it off, right? Jianglin was a little scared. Ding Ming glanced at her. Well, the ladies don't have to take it off, but the men have to take it off. Otherwise, we can't go through. There was a rustling sound on the grass, and the armor was scattered all over the ground. Ding Ming took a look. Brother Huazi's underpants were bought with money. It was actually a pair of sexy underpants from the Sangun brand. Brother Huazi was really a man with dreams. Throw away your weapons, too. Ding Ming noticed that there were a few alloy blades tied to Nanshan Monster's waist. They looked very strange, and he guessed that they were probably sharp weapons. The group of people followed behind Ding Ming and carefully moved to the shore of the lake. Strangely enough, the monster's palm did not come out, and the 6 of them passed through the lake safely. Of course, at this time, the fans in the live broadcast rooms were also talking about it. Everyone was trying to figure out the reason. That was why people said that the greatest talents were among the people. The power of the fans was endless. Not long after, Nanshan Monster spoke first. I get it. This lake monster is not triggered by origin energy. The real conditions for it to be activated are metal and technological energy. Well, Ding Ming turned his head and looked at him. You're a little smart, kid. In fact, Ding Ming's telekinesis vision had already noticed that the hidden traps and monsters were all high energy points. As long as someone approached these points, they would appear and attack the contestants. At first, Ding Ming also thought that they were activated by origin energy. However, when more and more people died, he vaguely felt that it should be caused by technological energy and metal energy. This was the misleading information that the officials gave to the contestants. They were allowed to bring their personal equipment and to form teams. Every contestant who entered the amazing race had a big bag of equipment, such as anti-gravity backpacks, scanners, photoelectric guns, laser guns, and even grappling hooks. It was fine if you didn't bring these things, but if you did, you would die. However, Ding Ming happened to be alone. He didn't have a single cent on him. He only had this set of mountaineering clothes. After testing it by the lake, he immediately found out what was going on. From his point of view, Night Owl and the others who chose to enter the cliff behind the sacred mountain were probably already dead. Of course, Wang Xilong's heart was bleeding when he heard the secret from Nanshan Weirdo. F***CK, I've spent 500,000 star coins in vain. Now that everyone is naked, it's not a good image. Instead of increasing my popularity, I've lost a lot. On the other hand, Ding Ming's livestream viewers had already broken through the 2 million mark. He was really in the limelight. Don't feel like you've lost out, Ding Ming said casually. Without my permission, you guys wouldn't have been able to get here. At this moment, the 6 of them had already arrived at the foot of the mountain. The sacred mountain was not very high, and the slope was slowly rising. Along the way, there were mostly green lawns. Occasionally, there would be 1 or 2 red and white wildflowers. Looking at the wildflowers all over the mountain, Ding Ming suddenly stopped in his tracks. There's a problem up ahead, Wang Xilong said suspiciously. Another problem? Ding Ming sighed. If I say there's a problem, then there's a problem. Huazigu also felt that the 500,000 star coins were wasted. Who are you trying to scare this time? Ding Ming said, You don't believe me? Like hell I believe you. Nanshan Monster said. Now that he knew the secret of the map, he didn't care about Ding Ming at all. Ding Ming said, All right, then you go up first. Don't say I didn't warn you. Wang Xilong and Huazigu hesitated. This crazy outburst didn't seem like a joke, but Nanshan Monster didn't believe it. Fine, I'll go up. After saying that, he ran up the hill happily. It seemed that he was indeed fine. However, after running for about 150 meters, his speed obviously slowed down. Then, his body became unstable, and his steps changed. Huh? Wang Xilong and the others widened their eyes. Was there really a trap? It was more than just a trap. Nanshan Monster started coughing violently. The intensity of his coughing was worthy of his ID. After coughing for more than 10 seconds, smoke began to come out of his head. The smoke was strangely black. Poison? Wang Xilong and the others asked in unison. It was indeed poison, because Nanshan Monster couldn't cough anymore. His lunchbox was already waiting for him in Star Wars City. Only when he turned into a stream of white light did Wang Xilong and the others turn to Ding Ming in shock. Damn, how did you know? Ding Ming was the least afraid of all kinds of poison. But then again, a poison that could take down a high-level warlord was definitely the world-devouring poison simulated by Sir System. Wang Xilong finally became smart. He laughed dryly and said, Haha, crazy boss, you have a solution, right? Ding Ming was already sitting cross-legged on the grass. Do you think I'm a god? How would I have a solution? This. Wang Xilong hesitated. The traps and monsters were still manageable, but they really couldn't do anything about the world-devouring poison. This wasn't their problem. It was a problem that had troubled the Federal Empire for half a century. Sir System just had to put it in the speedy advance mode. Do you even have a bit of humanity as a map designer? Why did you make it so complicated? Just when they were at their wits' end, Ding Ming squinted his eyes and said, Actually, it's not like there's no solution. Wang Xilong's eyes lit up. He quickly asked, Crazy boss, please give us a hint. Ding Ming's eyelids drooped. There's something in this world that's omnipotent. It can help you solve all your problems. Wang Xilong's eyelids drooped as well. Can you not play like this? You're not here to compete. You're just a toll booth. 500,000? Wang Qilong stretched out 5 fingers to test the waters. Ding Ming didn't answer. Huazi was a little anxious. It's been more than an hour. Time's almost up. I'll give you 600,000. Ding Ming suddenly became deaf. He couldn't hear a thing. Zhu Jiashan, Zhun couldn't hold it in anymore. There's nothing in this world that 620,000 galactic credits can't solve. If there is, then give me another 620,000. Ding Ming finally returned to normal. He said in an old-fashioned manner, that's right. Money is just a worldly possession, but you only have one life. You're a promising child. Brother, you'll achieve great things. Wang Qilong was still unwilling. Boss, can't you at least give us a discount? We still have to rely on you to lead us. Ding Ming patted him on the shoulder. Since you're so sincere, I'll make it a round number. Wang Qilong was a little happy. 1 million. Wrong. Ding Ming corrected him. It's 120. How's that? It's a round number, right? Wang Qilong almost fainted. I swear, this is the most expensive mountain I've ever been on. If you don't want to, then I'll go up the mountain alone. Ding Ming stood up and looked like he was about to leave. No. It's a round number, a very lucky round number. Wang Qilong didn't dare to let Ding Ming go. If Ding Ming really left, then the 4 of them could only wait for death. So he smiled and said, 120 is good. 120 is the number for the medical emergency service. Isn't it the number for detoxification? Brother Feng, you're so wise. You're so thoughtful. Don't you think so? Huazi and Pig-Cutting Mountain Treasure immediately glared at him. It's your uncle. Charging for boarding the ship is your F***king rotten idea. This is great. They charge us the fee. This for 8 million money you pay alone. Wang Qilong had no choice but to turn his head and say, Boss, can you give me another discount? I don't have enough money recently. Ding Ming said helplessly, Well, let's make it a round number. 79 million. You see, it's also a round number, right? Plop. Wang Qilong directly knelt down. He could only worship this logic. Chapter 9-10. This was a rather interesting scene. Ding Ming activated her dazzling, pure white diamond shield and silently walked on the mountain path. This time, Ding Ming's shield was bigger than before. It could hold 5 people, so Wang Xikong and the others would definitely be inside. However, outside the shield, the wildflowers on the grass would fly up like mosquitoes with every step Ding Ming took. They would turn into black smoke when they hit the surface of a shield. Wang Xikong and the others didn't even dare to look up. They couldn't imagine how terrifying it would be if the poison entered their bodies. When the time came, they could change their IDs to Holy Mountain Monster. In fact, everyone knew that this shield was definitely not an ordinary source energy shield. It was some kind of protective shield against poison. The divine light was almost immune to most poisons in the devouring world. It had already been 2 hours since they arrived at the top of the sacred mountain, and there wasn't much time left. The flagpole in the open space was just inches away, but Ding Ming just had to stop. His action had alerted everyone. Huazi hesitated and said, Is there a problem again? Yes, Ding Ming answered like an old man. Wang Qilong was anxious again. They had come up after so many difficulties. They could not fall at the last hurdle. Boss, you are the wisest. You must have a way, right? Ding Ming nodded slowly. Yes, what way? The 4 asked at the same time. Ding Ming said, That is the old way. Wang Qilong almost vomited blood. You want us to pay again? Ding Ming obviously saw through his thoughts. Money is just a worldly possession, cough. I don't believe you. Zhu Jiashan was angry. You take everything you go. This is against the rules. This is called taking everything. Ding Ming looked at him. If you don't believe me, you can go and try. Don't blame me for not warning you. Hearing this, Pig-Cutter Mountain Treasure immediately cowered. Marenja and Weirdo South Mountain did not believe this. Pig-Cutter Mountain Treasure really did not dare to argue with Mad Explosion. This Mad Explosion was very strange. Every time he said something, it was strangely accurate. Hey, come here quickly. There's something strange about this flagpole. Jianglin, Er's voice sounded in front of them. Everyone went forward to take a look and found that the entire flagpole seemed to be made of alloy, but the surface was wrapped in a thin layer of transparent liquid. What's this? It's so slippery. Wang Xikong was curious. Ding Ming calmly explained, it's obvious that you guys haven't been to the front lines of the fertile chalk system before. This is the soaking fluid used by the frogs to regenerate their warriors. It's very slippery, so you can't grab it. Pig Cutter Mountain Treasure immediately grabbed the flagpole with both hands and tried to climb up. He realized that he couldn't grab it at all. The soaking liquid was too slippery, and he couldn't wipe it off. Damn it, this map creator was really shameless. At the last moment, he made such a move. This flagpole was 200 meters tall. No matter who it was, they couldn't jump that high. Now that they couldn't climb up, could it be that they could only wait for death below? Wang Xikong did not waste any more time. He directly pointed 2 fingers at Ding Ming. Brother Feng, I'll be honest with you. This time, I'll round it up for you. The buyout price is 36 million. Is that okay with you? Ding Ming stared at him. You alone? Wang Xikong gritted his teeth. The 4 of us. 5 million. How about that? Before Ding Ming could agree, Pig Cutter Mountain Treasure said, get lost. I'm not going to waste this money. Besides, I don't have any money now. You want to blackmail me? I'm not afraid. Ding Ming's eyelids drooped. You can't touch the sacred pearl without me. Can't touch it? Pig Cutter Mountain Treasure was so angry that he laughed. What a joke. If I don't show you today, you'll think I'm useless. Ding Ming said, okay, then I'll see you in the city. Pig Cutter Mountain Treasure's hands were slightly glowing. Then he slapped the flagpole with one hand. The soaking liquid was freezing at a speed visible to the naked eye. At the same time, it was spreading. Then Pig Cutter Mountain Treasure summoned an ice blade and chopped it hard on the flagpole. The ice blade and the ice became one. Using the adhesion of the ice, he climbed up step by step. Wang Xikong's eyes lit up. This method was stupid and slow, but did not cost money. A method that did not cost money was a good method. Pig Cutter awesome. Brother Huazi gave him a thumbs up. Ding Ming looked up and said, take it easy. You'll be in trouble from 50 meters onwards. Are you kidding me? Pig Cutter Mountain Treasure did not believe him. He climbed up quickly. When he reached 50 meters, Jiang Lin said decisively, be careful, look up. Pig Cutter Mountain Treasure looked up. A red energy dot appeared in the air. The red dot emitted rays from both sides and came down on him. It was obviously trying to force him down. Not a chance. Pig Cutter Mountain Treasure hugged the flagpole and turned half a circle to the other side. He successfully avoided the interference of the rays. Ha ha ha, child's play. Ding Ming's eyelids drooped. Don't be so happy. It's coming again. This time, 2 red energy dots appeared, one above his head and one below his feet. The 2 rays were parallel to each other and attacked from both sides. Pig Cutter Mountain Treasure had some tricks up his sleeve. He first took the initiative to slide down a distance and turned half a circle to avoid the rays below him. Then, he quickly turned back and used the time difference to successfully avoid the rays above him. That's it. Pig Cutter Mountain Treasure was relaxed. You want to trouble me with this kind of design? Can't you do something more difficult? Sir System also expressed that it had never heard of a candidate who dared to make such a strange request. If that was the case, it would satisfy him. Hiss! The sound was long and shrill. It was obvious that there was a big problem. 100 meters above him, another red energy dot appeared. This time, the red dot was the size of a soccer ball. The rays that extended out were not a straight line, but a huge grid. The area of the grid was about half the size of a soccer field. The gaps in the grid were so big that even a fish could not pass through it. If you don't let go, you'll get your lunchbox. Pig Cutter Mountain Treasure's expression changed. He hugged the flagpole and slid down quickly. Then, Ding Ming's voice came from the ground. You can go home and get your shanjin now. Pig Cutter Mountain Treasure looked down. There was an even bigger and brighter red net rising from below. Even if he was given a pair of wings, he would not be able to escape. F***CK. At the moment of his death, Pig Cutter Mountain Treasure expressed his dissatisfaction. He raised his arms and shouted, long live the Zheng Xing Corporation. I love Zheng Xing. I love F***CK. His voice was cut off. When the two nets closed, he turned into light. Ding Ming shook his head and sighed. I told you that without me, you won't be able to touch the Holy Pearl. Do you believe me now? But brother, your advertisement is not very good. Shirtsong Wang and the other two were dumbfounded again. There were more traps in the sky than on the ground, and they were more ruthless. Brother Feng. Shirtsong Wang swallowed his saliva with difficulty. Ding Ming said meaningfully, Do you believe me now? Yes. Shirtsong Wang nodded. Ding Ming said, What about now? Shirtsong Wang answered decisively, I'll pay. Ding Ming snapped her fingers. Very good. 5 million. I guarantee that the three of you will pass this level. Shirtsong Wang was unhappy again. But boss, 5 million is the price for 4 people. Ding Ming stared at him. Let me ask you, 5 million for the job. Did you say it yourself? Shirtsong Wang's face was bitter. You can't argue with the logic of a god. You can either pay or turn into light. Choose one. I'll go and transfer the money when I go offline. Shirtsong Wang gritted his teeth and said, Originally, he had wanted to make a business deal worth more than 10 million yuan. Not only had the 10 million yuan business been ruined, but now he had to spend 10 million yuan on it. He had to do this business. He had to do it. Brother Huazi and Jiang Lin were not angry now. They could only ask Ding Ming, Boss, do you have any ideas? Watch carefully. Ding Ming had already raised his hand. At this moment, the hand blade was surrounded by a 7-colored flame. Seeing this color, Wang Shirtsong and the others knew that Ding Ming was once again an intermediate battle saint. With a tong sound, the hand cut the flagpole. The alloy was immediately melted. The 200-meter-tall flagpole fell to the ground, and the holy pearl at the tip shone on the ground. Ding Ming spread his hands and said, Isn't this enough? Shirtsong Wang felt like he was dreaming. It's that simple. Ding Ming said, Do you think that 5 million is a loss? Shirtsong Wang could only nod like an idiot. It was more than a loss. He felt like he had been cheated. Ding Ming suddenly asked, You made a lot of money. Why don't you think about what type of origin energy you three have? Shirtsong Wang suddenly realized. He and Brother Huazi had the metal element, and Jiang Lin had the ice element. They couldn't do anything to the flagpole. However, Crazy Explosion was different. Crazy Explosion was a thermodynamic type. He could directly melt the alloy with his origin energy. Once the flagpole fell, wouldn't the Holy Pearl be within reach? It sounded simple, but this method couldn't be used by a thermodynamic type origin energy user who wasn't at the level of a battle saint. It was a classic example of a disadvantage. But then again, was it a loss to pay 5 million for a battle saint to fight? It was really not a loss. Luckily, he met Crazy Explosion. Shirtsong Wang's expression relaxed. He quickly smiled. Brother Crazy is wise. Brother Crazy is mighty. Luckily, I wasn't as impulsive as pig cutting. Aya, that was so close. That's right. Ding Ming smiled. Okay, let's pass. Remember to send the money. Of course. I'm very trustworthy. Shirtsong Wang smiled. They had finally passed the stage of extreme speed advance. Ding Ming's fans and Lan Bing's girls were also laughing. Everyone else was racking their brains to think of ways to break the mechanism. Ding Ming, on the other hand, was thinking of ways to earn money the entire time. As the 4 people's fingers touched the Holy Pearl, the system's voice finally sounded. Congratulations to contestants Dream Return, Shirtsong Wang, Brother Huazi, Jiang Lin, and Crazy Explosion for passing the extreme speed advance. Dream Return took 33 minutes and 26 seconds. The remaining 4 took 170 minutes and 23 seconds. Please do not leave. The next stage of the extreme speed advance will officially begin in 20 minutes. There were 200 people in the map, but only 5 people passed. The elimination rate was really high. No. That Dream Return only took half an hour to pass, and it was even before him. How'd she do it? At this time, Ding Ming had no choice but to ask for help from his powerful fan club. His current popularity had reached 66 million people. Chapter 911. After a series of questions, Ding Ming wanted to vomit blood like Shirtsong Wang, because the speedy advance had already ended. After listening to the fans' descriptions, Dingming finally understood how Dream Return was cleared. She jumped into the water from the helipad and swam in the opposite direction towards the center of the sea. There was a single-person teleportation circle there that could teleport people directly to the flagpole at the top of the mountain. She easily cleared the stage. None of the contestants would have thought of this method of clearing the stage. So her system had really screwed everyone over this time. Looking at the system panel again, the number of contestants in this stage of the Speedy Advance was 96 million, but the number of people who made it to the next stage was 460,000. In other words, there were only about 2 people who made it to the next stage. Dingming's team was considered to have more people who made it to the next stage, but the elimination rate was shockingly high. Outside the entrance of Tulip Inn, Four-Eyed Harry had already arrived. Shirtzone Wong and Huazi Bro were spreading smoke. "Brother, come smoke Huazi. These are good cigarettes." Four-Eyed Harry had received 10 million galactic credits for no reason, so he was already on cloud 9. Hee, brother, you're the best. We're all on the same side. "Hey, boss is here," Dingming said casually. "Okay, we'll all go together in the next stage, as long as we're on the same map." He had a point. The system had already announced the rules for the next stage. The adventure park would still be on the same map, and there would be a total of 10 match points. In other words, each map should be able to accommodate 50,000 people. The condition to clear the stage was still to touch the sacred orb, but the time had been shortened to 30 minutes. The same old rules apply. You can bring your own equipment, and you can also form your own team. "Boss, should we buy some supplies or something?" Mao Zi suggested. Dingming glanced at him. "Didn't we just get some income? Let's buy some food." "Okay." The Mausch left in high spirits. Shirtzone Wong and Huazi Bro immediately said, "Boss, bring me along for the next round." "No problem." Dingming snapped his fingers. The reason why he agreed so readily was because he had carefully studied the competition schedule. The first 3 stages, Road to Survival, Speedy Advance, and Adventure Paradise, could only be said to be a series of selections. It basically eliminated all the players below the level of Battle Monarch. The remaining 460,000 players were the total number of Origin Ability users above the level of Battle Monarch in the Federal Empire. The first 3 stages were the Star Wars Carnival and were the appetizers for most of the audience. Only by advancing to the Storm Hall would you be considered to have obtained the true ticket to the Storm Gathering and enter the Cruel Elimination stage. That was the true Storm Gathering. 20 minutes passed quickly. The system activated the teleportation, and the Adventure Park tournament officially began. After the teleportation, white light flashed. Dingming couldn't help but laugh when he took a closer look. This map was the same map that he had participated in during the Road to Survival stage. It could be said that it hadn't changed at all. In the distance was the vast ash plains. Nearby was a complex ravine. He was standing at the peak of a mountain. Even the Scorpion starship was still floating in the sky. However, the difference from the Road to Survival stage was that the weather on the map had changed. Before, it had been foggy and overcast, but now it was a vast expanse of white everywhere. The snow was knee-deep, and the sky was covered in snow. The energy beam at the back had turned into a giant ice pillar. The entire map was filled with people, densely packed together like ants on a snowy field. He used his telekinesis to scan the area. Indeed, none of the participants were still at the level of a battle master. The weakest were advanced battle generals, and most of them were Origin battle monarchs. However, there were still very few battle saints. Boss, we're here." A voice came from behind. He turned around and saw Four Eyes and Harry running through the wind and snow. Behind them were Shirtzone Wong and Huazi Bro. It couldn't be such a coincidence, right? Dingming was a little surprised that they could be randomly teleported to the same map. "I didn't even notice you guys. How did you guys find me?" Harry smiled and said, "Boss, your clothes are green. It's easy to find you." Dingming was speechless. Among the 50,000 participants, it seemed like he was the only one who was wearing pure green. Was this hinting at something? Four Eyes looked up at the giant starship in the sky and said, "Boss, I've formed the team. If the team wins, we can still advance. What do we do now?" At this time, The participants who had a little bit of experience in exploration could see that the sacred orb was definitely hidden inside the Scorpion starship. However, the altitude was very high, at least 1,000 meters. It was very difficult to get up there without a flying unit. Due to the urgency of time, many of the participants took all kinds of flying backpacks, flying boots, battle armor, and armor as soon as they entered the map. No one was willing to fall behind. Did you buy food? Ding Ming turned his head and asked. Harry was a little hesitant, but he still answered honestly, I bought everything as you ordered. Good. Ding Ming waved his hand. Let's sit down and eat first. Shirt Song Wang and Huazi Ge looked at each other. What was going on? A new payment model? Ding Ming smiled and said, This is free. Eat without worry. You'll only have strength when you're full. Shirt Song Wang's eyelids drooped. He had already seen Four Eyes and Harry dragging out a lot of things from their backpacks. Chicken legs, chicken wings, meat skewers, hot dogs, chicken skin, crispy bones, chicken feet, pig trotters. Were they going to have a barbecue? Four Eyes was a little dissatisfied. The temperature is minus 32 degrees Celsius. Harry, can you even eat these? Ding Ming waved his hand and said, It's okay. We'll still eat. As he spoke, he clapped his hands. The wind from his palms swept out a dry space in the snow. Then he placed these ingredients on the ground and directly used his source energy to heat them up. The fan club was once again shocked by his actions. Are my eyes playing tricks on me? They're actually in the mood to barbecue? They're directly using their palms to heat them up? 6666666. This is the first time I've seen someone barbecue in a competition. Awesome plus. Damn, there's even alcohol. It's a dirty rat brand. There's no need to freeze it. Adding cold beer to barbecue in this weather is the best. I also want to eat after looking at it. How expensive is it? Mother of asterisk cur. Did the people upstairs start to speak in vulgar language again? Nonsense, of course it's expensive. The chicken skewers they're eating cost 10 star coins each in Star Wars stores. Damn, no way. How much are those chicken legs? I don't know. Look at Boss. He's eating 3 chicken legs in one bite. My God, the barbecue has piled up into a small mountain. How much is that? A basin of alcohol? Particular, Boss is really particular. When it came to eating, Shirt Song Wang, Huazi Ge, and Ding Ming were comparable. The two of them were thinking that these were all bought with their own money, so they had to eat as much as they could. At this time, the contestants were flying towards the starship in various flying units. They didn't see any movement from the starship. Suddenly, a voice came from behind. Hello. Ding Ming turned her head and saw that it was Dream Recall, who was dressed in a white Taoist robe. Have you had lunch yet? Why don't you come and eat? Ding Ming invited her generously. Hui Ming didn't shy away. She walked over and sat cross-legged on the ground. She looked at Ding Ming with a smile. I didn't expect you guys to advance. The you guys she was referring to were naturally Shirt Song Wang and Huazi Ge. As for Ding Ming, she didn't think that Ding Ming would fall in the extreme speed advancement. With Hui Ming's participation, the group of contestants became even more lively. Ding Ming couldn't help but ask, You passed the last round very quickly. Immortal Travel Back to Dreams chuckled. Reverse thinking. Ding Ming thought that this woman must know some tricks to pass the round. So she also joined them and started eating. But then again, the different modes of the carnival were from easy to difficult. This adventure park was definitely not weak. Although everyone was ascending happily, it was definitely not easy to pass the round. Sure enough, just as he thought this, the Scorpion starship in the sky shook slightly. All kinds of crackling sounds could be heard clearly. He scanned with his telekinesis vision. The contestants started fighting each other inside the starship. It seemed that someone had snatched a crystal-carrying matrix, which probably contained the sacred pearl. Countless people were fighting over it. Hui Ming smiled. Actually, the first 3 stages are about the same as the last one. Ding Ming asked, What do you mean? Hui Ming explained, The preliminaries eliminate most of the contestants. The path of survival eliminates the war venerables. The extreme speed advancement eliminates the war masters, and the adventure park eliminates the war generals. The rest is up to the experts. Ding Ming understood. You mean that as long as you are a war monarch, you can pass the round with your eyes closed? Hui Meng smiled. Aren't you eating barbecue now? You don't look worried at all. Ding Meng asked. You've participated in the Galactic War Carnival before, right? Hui Meng nodded. Yes, I have. Ding Meng said. No wonder you know so much about it. He did not ask about the results and rankings. Hui Meng was very satisfied with this. She had taken the initiative to look for Ding Meng because the fans in the live stream had told her that Ding Meng had used his bare hands to chop the flagpole in half. This was the only one among the contestants who had passed, and this had already attracted her attention. At this moment, another group of people walked over from the mountain range. Ding Meng and Hui Meng both turned their gazes. This group of people was really too eye-catching. It was impossible not to notice them because the IDs above their heads all had the same prefix, Star Rainbow. Other than that, they also had a common characteristic, and that was that they were all equipped with silvery white humanoid mech armor. Ding Meng had seen this type of mech armor before on Planet Poison Dragon. Ling Xingqi was equipped with it. Moreover, looking at the color and luster of this mech armor, it seemed to be flowing. It was very obvious that this mech armor had been modified many times. It should belong to the very advanced batch. At the very least, its combat power would not be weak. Hui Meng suddenly sighed. I've finally seen a group of powerful contestants. Ding Meng also sighed because he had also seen the leading mech armor of the Star Rainbow group. The words above this person's head were especially eye-catching. Star Rainbow, Ling Xingqi. Chapter 9:12. Ling Xingqi's appearance was undoubtedly the center of attention. Although she was wearing silver armor and her head was covered, one could still feel her threatening aura from far away. There were 7 or 8 people behind her. Ding Meng did not recognize these IDs, but 2 of them caught his attention. Star Rainbow, Lung Yeqiu, Star Rainbow, Dong Yihan. Not only did he notice, but Immortal Dream's eyes were also locked on these 2 people. Although they were covered in armor, the aura they emitted was exceptionally strong. It could be said that they were unprecedentedly strong. This group of people obviously also noticed Ding Meng's strange behavior on a mountaintop. Lung Yeqiu took the initiative to stop. Ling Xingqi turned around and asked, What's wrong? Lung Yeqiu and Dong Yihan did not speak, but their eyes were locked on a mountaintop. Ling Xingqi decisively ordered, Look! Thus, Lung Yeqiu took the initiative to slowly walk towards a mountaintop. This was completely within Ding Meng's expectations. Other people might not be able to tell that he and Immortal Dream were different, but experts with armor were different. The various scanning devices and detection devices on the armor would definitely be able to sense his aura. Lung Yeqiu stood on the snow, and his eyes seemed to be looking at Immortal Dream. Long time no see. Immortal Dream could only take the initiative to stand up. How did you recognize me? Lung Yeqiu's voice was as cold as his ID. Your name can change, your appearance can change, and even your voice can change, but a person's characteristics cannot be changed. Immortal Dream seemed to be silent, but then he smiled and said, I forgot that you're good at recognizing people. Lung Yeqiu said, You seem to have improved again. Immortal Dream laughed. What? Are you feeling pressure? Lung Yeqiu also seemed to be laughing. The person who should be feeling pressure should be you. Immortal Dream sighed. You seem to have improved a lot too. Lung Yeqiu said, Do you still remember our agreement? Immortal Dream's tone changed. There is no agreement between us. Everything is just your own wishful thinking. Lung Yeqiu seemed to take a deep breath and did not dwell on this topic. Instead, he slowly turned to Ding Meng. I seem to have seen you before. Ding Meng asked calmly, Do we know each other? Lung Yeqiu shook his head and said, We don't know each other, but I feel like I've seen you before. Ding Meng said, Oh. Lung Yeqiu suddenly said, I have studied the Battle of Crystals. Four-eyed, and the others looked at each other. What was this guy talking about? Lung Yeqiu suddenly said, Maybe I got the wrong person. Ding Meng sighed. You must have mistaken me for someone else. I hope you're wrong. Lung Yeqiu replied faintly. But I rarely make mistakes. What is this guy blabbering about? Mauzi expressed his confusion. Unfortunately, Lung Yeqiu didn't say anything else, and he turned around and left slowly. Looking at the back of the figure in the wind and snow, Ding Ming's eyes flashed with a cold light. He knew that Lung Yeqiu was not talking nonsense. Ding Ming and Ling Xingqi had a great battle at the Battle of Crystals. Ling Xingqi's armor must have recorded the battle at that time. Presumably, Star Rainbow's experts had also carefully studied it after the battle. Ding Ming also recently learned from Lan Bing that in a giant like Shenghao Star Rainbow, there were groups of experts on the surface and in the dark. The so-called experts on the surface were people like Xie Feili. They were usually very famous and strong. Most of the ordinary citizens in the Holy Grail Federation knew about them. However, the experts in the dark would not appear so easily. These people were all nurtured by the corporation with a lot of resources. They did not go out and rarely appeared in public. However, these experts were the true experts. They were the top existences in the Holy Grail Federation. Lan Bing had once told Ding Ming that when she was still in Shenghao, even when she was Yuanji's girlfriend, she did not know who Shenghao's top experts were. And this Lung Yeqiu was undoubtedly one of Star Rainbow's top experts. Presumably, these top experts would not be willing to miss a grand event like the carnival. At the end of the day, Lung Yeqiu felt that the berserk explosion in front of him was very likely Ding Ming. This was not a strange thing. When one's strength reached that level, one's perception of aura was unique. There were only a few people in the Federation who could kill dozens of battle lords and battle saints in Star Rainbow. The possibility of Ding Ming being one of them was very high. Ding Ming turned to look at Immortal Traveler Dream. You should be a famous person, right? Immortal Traveler Dream knew that it was useless to explain. He nodded and said, "Seems like you too. What was your ranking in the last carnival?" Ding Ming could not help but ask. Immortal Traveler Dream smiled. "Do you know what Lung Yeqiu's ranking was?" "What?" Immortal Traveler Dream said, "7th. This ranking is already very high." The IDs and rankings of every carnival were different. This was because the players could change their IDs and appearances at will. However, observant viewers could still see some clues. For example, the IDs of the previous two carnival champions were Lei Jingtian and Feng Yaqin. However, they were actually the same person. This was because their fighting style could not be imitated by others and was very easy to distinguish. In other words, if your ranking was high, even if your ID and appearance were different, your real identity would still be recognized. At this moment, the live stream became noisy again. The 7th place of the previous carnival was called Reunion. This time, he used the prefix Star Rainbow. He must be an expert from the Star Rainbow Corporation. How high can his ranking be? I don't think so. He's quite good at showing off. I still think highly of Boss. Boss might not be worse than him. Why? Because Boss's style is very flamboyant. Have you guys realized that ever since Boss joined the carnival, he hasn't made any moves? Oh, now that you mention it, I think so too. Boss is really hiding his strength. All right, let's analyze it. That Lung Yeqiu values Immortal Traveler Dream so much. This proves that Immortal Traveler Dream's strength is also top-notch. Boss can eat barbecue with Immortal Traveler Dream. This proves that they're on the same level. Eating barbecue means they're on the same level? Is your flamboyant logic also from Old University? If you ask me, Boss will have no problem entering the top 10. What kind of godly logic is this? This is Boss's logic. Round it up. F*CK 66666. With Lung Yeqiu's interruption, the barbecue didn't taste so good anymore. This was because the situation of the competition had changed. Someone had snatched the crystal-carrying matrix, but the container had somehow fallen into the hands of the Star Rainbow Corporation. The metal container was placed on the ground. 2 or 3 people from the Star Rainbow Corporation went up to open it. However, a large group of people surrounded them. It was obvious that everyone was unwilling to give up and wanted to snatch it back. Ding Ming's gaze locked onto Ling Xingqi, who was standing in the middle of the snowfield. At this moment, Ling Xingqi had a new weapon in her hand. This wasn't the Krypton gold sword she used before. Instead, it was a long silver blade. The shape of this blade was very unique. Its blade was very wide, and the blade was very thin. It looked like a long and narrow triangle. The entire blade was about 1.3 meters long. A long blade like this couldn't be held in one's hand. It could only be dragged on the ground. Together with the majestic appearance of Ling Xingqi's Tyrol armor, she looked like a goddess of war in the snow. Many of the players knew that the Star Rainbow Corporation wasn't to be trifled with, but they still braced themselves and went up. Ling Xingqi suddenly turned into a whirlwind. The whirlwind circled around the container, and a large amount of white light immediately rose up around it. This time, even Ding Ming couldn't help but sigh. Her strength has really leaped up by a few levels. Others couldn't tell, but he could. Although Ling Xingqi looked like a whirlwind, it was actually a standard 10-direction slash. This was just one slash, and it took away more than 30 warlords who had pounced on her. These warlords didn't even have time to react. Not only was she strong, but her blade was also a famed weapon. This slash directly shocked all the players. No one dared to go up and snatch it. The other players from the Star Rainbow Corporation focused on opening the container. As expected, the container was opened very quickly. The sparkling holy orb rolled onto the snowy ground. It was also at this time that a red beam as thick as a tree trunk suddenly shot out from the tail of the Scorpion starship. The beam didn't attack the crowd. Instead, it shot directly at the holy orb. Silong Wang and Huazige could only sigh in admiration. Map creator, you really are an expert at scheming. Whoever opens the container will be the first to be burned to ashes. Clang! The beam didn't land on the holy orb. This was because Ling Xingqi was already standing next to the orb. She suddenly raised her blade. With her as the center, a 7-colored astral wind of origin energy shot into the sky. She actually blocked the beam by releasing her origin energy. At the intersection of the astral wind and the beam, a transparent arc-shaped plating layer could be seen with the naked eye. Energy flowed out like water. This was the result of two huge forces fighting against each other. This scene really shocked everyone. This was equivalent to fighting against a starship's railgun with one's own strength. For the Battle Lord and Battle Lord level players, this was something that was beyond their understanding. However, the beam still gained the upper hand in the end. This was because the plating layer was pressing down on Ling Xingqi bit by bit. Just as it was about to burn her battle mask, Ling Xingqi's blade suddenly changed. It directly turned into a blade of light. An even more turbulent energy pushed back and actually repelled the beam. After forcefully holding on for 30 seconds, the starship finally stopped attacking. Most of the players in the audience had their mouths open in an O shape. This is F*King Invincible. Ding Ming's face darkened. This was because only he could see that Ling Xingqi's blade had turned into a blade of light. It looked like a pure thermal origin energy had caused the color to change. However, an expert could sense that her origin energy wasn't just any ordinary energy. This was because the blade of light wasn't an ordinary weapon. It had been transformed into a form of light by the injection of divine light energy. Ling Xingqi had actually mastered the legendary divine light energy. Could it be that the Starry Rainbow Corporation had finally discovered the new Maoxing ruins and discovered a new divine light energy? If that was really the case, then the Starlight Corporation would truly be a great enemy that Ding Ming had never faced before. No wonder Lung Yeqiu had said that he looked familiar. It was because he had sensed the fluctuations on Ding Ming's body. Those fluctuations contained the divine light essence. Chapter 9:13. The scene of Ling Xingqi pointing her sword at the sky became a classic scene on the official forums. At that moment, she really looked like a goddess of war in a snowstorm. The official statistics also showed that Ling Xingqi's popularity had reached 33 million, and she was currently ranked 3rd. She's really popular. Liang Yiran said in a bad mood. In Bingi Corporation's CEO's office, everyone was discussing the popularity rankings. The first 3 stages of the Star Wars Carnival had ended. 450,000 of the 500,000 contestants had been eliminated. The remaining 50,000 contestants had truly entered the Fengyun Convention. Next was the most direct stage of the Fengyun Palace. Popularity basically represented the contestants' current ranking. Number 10, Collapsing Mountain No. 09, Bingy Dai No. 08, Crimson Moon, Li Xiaoyao No. 07, Zhengxing Old Hot Pot No. 06, Beidou Jichen No. 05, Rainbow Eisendel. Number 04, Chuangyu Official Wu Ming No. 03, Xing Hong, Ling Xingqi No. 02, Apocalypse by Yuno. 01, Sheng Hao, Yu Ming. This ranking was actually very interesting. The top 10 were basically monopolized by the Federal Empire's large corporations and sections. Some people used their real names while others used fake IDs. This was very easy to understand. The carnival was only halfway through, and for the sake of commercial branding, the large corporations and sects had to be the first to show their faces. However, the appearance of Bingy Dai made many people start to inquire about the origins of the Bingy group. This was the only one. However, what made Ding Ming unhappy was that Four Eyes was actually ranked 10th. His popularity was as high as 24 million points. It seemed like he had made a name for himself by smoking. Of course, this ranking didn't mean anything. The truly powerful ones hadn't shown themselves yet. Lan Bing said, "I think that by the Fengyan Palace stage, this ranking will change completely. Only a small portion of people will remain on it." Harry stared at Four Eyes. "Did you hear that? I'm talking about you." Four Eyes didn't reply. He was now a beginner-level combat monarch. Being able to reach this point was already his limit. Liang Yiran said, "Four Eyes, go buy new fashion tomorrow and print our company's logo on it." Mauzi immediately raised his hand. "Mr. Liang, we don't have any money." "No money?" Liang Yiran sneered disdainfully. "Where did you get the money for the barbecue during the competition? Don't think that I don't know that Tianhong Shisong Wang gave you 10 million yuan. I've been watching Ding Ming the whole time. Millions of fans have seen it." The four-eyed man quickly defended himself. "That's Brother Ding's money. How can we have a share?" Liang Yiran laughed even more disdainfully. That Wang Shirtsong secretly transferred 5 million to you to help advertise behind the scenes." "How did you know?" Four-eyed asked in surprise. Liang Yiran nodded and said, "It's very simple. That Wang Shirtsong is also from Blue Pole Star City. He was my classmate in middle school." Four-eyed and Harry's eyes went black. "Damn, it can't be so coincidental, right? Is it so hard to earn money for cigarettes now?" Everyone was still discussing. Only Ji Qinxue frowned and didn't say anything. Lan Bing naturally knew what she was thinking. Ji Qinyu was ranked 6th on the leaderboard. Now, she was the new leader of Beta Group. This competition was nothing more than showing her face in the public eye and increasing her exposure. This originally belonged to Ji Qinxue, but Ji Qinyu stole the limelight. How is Ji Qinyu's strength? Lan Bing took the initiative to ask. "She is not inferior to Miss Dai." Ji Qinxue replied. With her caution, if she could come to this conclusion, it proved that Ji Qinyu was not ordinary either. War God level. Lu Qing was a little surprised. Among Ding Meng's group of confidants, only Dai Yi's strength was slightly weaker. Although everyone's origin ability index had broken through the War God level, the index was only a part of one's strength. It didn't represent everything because experience, skills, and adaptability were more important. In this aspect, Dai Yi was the weakest. The others were all veterans in this aspect. Lu Qing, Lan Bing, and Liang Yi had all climbed up from the bottom and had gone through a lot of tempering along the way. The strongest was Jun Ling. She had fought since she was young. She had fought against humans, monsters, and other races. Her combat experience was very rich. The key was that she was proficient in all aspects. Therefore, Jun Ling didn't submit to anyone except for Ding Ming. "Let's fight." Jun Ling directly said, "She better not meet me. I will also help Miss Ji vent her anger." The rules of Wind Cloud Palace were the competition between contestants. The 50,000 contestants were randomly matched by the system. The winner would be decided in a single match. The condition to advance was to obtain 10 victories. This victory wasn't 10 consecutive victories, but a total of 10 victories. However, if you lost a match, you wouldn't be eliminated for the time being. You would continue to fight in the losers group. If you lost again in the losers group, then you would be completely eliminated. This was equivalent to the system giving you a chance to revive, ensuring that the truly strong would advance. The carnival had already been going on for 3 days. The day of Wind Cloud Palace's competition was a small climax for the carnival. The official viewership reached 15.5%. The number of online viewers broke through 220 billion, and the number of views of the broadcast reached 5.8 billion. The various sponsors also continued to increase their investments. The results that the contestants were most concerned about were also out. Currently, the Wind Cloud Palace's prize pool had accumulated a total of 27 billion star coins. It had already surpassed the previous Star Wars prize pool. It should be known that this was only the 4th stage. When it came to the final battle of the Kings, who knew how much the prize pool would increase? At the same time, President Bai Xingfei and Head of State Wen Yang announced that this year's Star Wars Carnival had an additional 16 mystery gift boxes. This meant that only those who entered the top 16 could be considered to have a real ranking and receive the generous rewards. To the contestants, they couldn't be careless in the following elimination rounds. They had to be alert and give it their all. On this day, Ding Meng's group of 5 went online early. They were currently meeting at the Tulip Inn in China City. Only by passing the Wind Cloud Palace's competition would the contestants have the right to go to the Holy War Temple in the core main city. The competition for 50,000 contestants was going on at the same time. Therefore, at 9 o'clock in the morning, everyone was sent by the system to the competition's designated map. The map was also random, so you could encounter any terrain you could imagine. After a flash of white light, Ding Meng found that he had been sent to a circular open-air structure similar to a stadium. This place looked a bit like a bird's nest. In the center was a very large arena surrounded by circular stands. It could hold 80,000 spectators. These spectators were, of course, virtual images. The fans had to pay for the seats themselves so that they could watch their idols fight up close. The tickets were not cheap. The last row of seats cost 200 star coins. The front row seats cost 1,000 star coins, and the VIP rooms cost 5,000 star coins per match. This price depended on the contestant's fame. If the contestant was well known, the price would rise. There was a 5-minute waiting time before the competition. Nominally, it was to give the contestants time to familiarize themselves with the map. To put it bluntly, it was to wait for the audience to pay for the tickets. With this income, the officials would make a lot of money. Of course, as soon as Ding Meng appeared, the live broadcast room began to bustle. Boss is here. Boss is here. My favorite crazy little brother is finally here. Boss has changed his image again today. TSK. Is this yellow robe a dragon robe? Does it mean that there's plenty of fish and meat for every meal? What do you know? This is the uniform of the Charm Squad's rider. Boss taste can be described in one word: flirtatious. It's still much better than yesterday's green outfit. Boss, that guy on the other side is showing off. Hurry up and kill him. It's not time yet. What are you yelling about? Why are there so few of us here? We're all from the other side. Damn. Actually, Ding Meng had noticed that in the corner of the opposite side of the arena, there was a contestant wearing the Xiao warrior armor. He was waving to the fans in the audience, and his voice was quite loud. Thank you. Thank you for your support. Our Lingwu family will never let you down. If we win this match, everyone will get a 75% discount on our products. My promise is absolutely valid. I'll keep my word. Listening to his tone, it seemed like he would definitely win. Ding Meng noticed that the system had added something new to his vision. He could see some basic information about his opponent. Rennie Hong popularity score, 366 million. Sponsors, Lingwu family, Ye Group, Xing Meng Shopping. So it was based on popularity score. Ding Meng opened his telekinesis vision and scanned it. Then, he lowered his eyelids and did not say anything. This was because Lan Bing had told him in advance. This is a one-on-one elimination match. You can't just beat your opponent violently. Your goal is popularity score. Do you understand popularity score? In other words, you have to make the scene look good so that you can attract more fans. Ding Ming was still thinking about how to make the scene look good. On the other hand, Ren Yihong turned around and looked at Ding Ming with disdain. Hee hee, crazy explosion? One look at the name and you know it's rubbish. Yo, you're even wearing a rider's uniform. You're here to deliver food? Interesting, interesting. The audience burst into laughter. Ding Ming's image was indeed not very good. He had chosen the clothes himself. His standard for choosing clothes was not to look good, but to wear it casually. This made the first and fourth wives shake their heads and sigh. Don't ever think of developing a straight man's taste in beauty. The match had entered the countdown. The rules were simple. If one fell off the arena or was eliminated, he would lose. Of course, it was almost impossible for contestants to fall off the arena in this stage. The only way to win was to defeat the opponent. Ren Yihong was very confident and at ease. The Great Xiao warrior armor drew 2 shiny curved swords from his waist. He then pointed one of the swords at Ding Ming and said, "You should feel honored." Ding Ming asked curiously why. Ren Yihong was full of arrogance. Because the person who defeated you is Ren Yihong of the Lingwu aristocratic family. Do you understand? Ding Ming couldn't help but laugh at this Chinibu teenager. All right, come on then. Let me see what the Lingwu aristocratic family is made of. Shut up, Ren Yihong said angrily. How can you insult my Lingwu aristocratic family? You must die by my hands today. At this moment, the countdown had ended and the match had officially begun. Ding Ming couldn't be bothered to talk nonsense with this guy. He simply took out a packet of drunkard's peanuts from his bag and started munching. This was bought by the Russians yesterday. There was still a lot of unfinished peanuts, and he kept them all. Seeing that his opponent was actually eating snacks, Ren Yihong was infuriated. His opponent was completely ignoring him. He couldn't tolerate it. Chapter 9:14. The Great Xiao Warrior Armor was one of the more mainstream high-end products on the market in the past 2 years. It was a land close combat armor that was mainly targeted at battle lords and battle generals. Because it was relatively cheap, it had a wider audience. Of course, the price of being cheap was that the conversion rate wasn't high. This battle armor's limit was only 3 times the conversion rate. At this moment, Ren Yihong had already activated his origin energy. He displayed the qualities of a battle monarch. His 2 curved swords were ignited with raging cinnabar-colored origin flames, following which he simultaneously slashed out with his 2 swords, causing a fierce gale to roll along the ground towards Ding Ming. The floor of the arena was made of alloy. This gust of wind first swept up the steel plate and then shattered it into countless steel shavings in the air, forming a chaotic flow of air that was difficult to see with the naked eye. When he swung his sword, the audience was immediately filled with cries of surprise. Most of the fans were ordinary people. When had they ever seen a battle lord in action? Even Ding Ming's fan club was a little worried. How would Boss react to this attack? Boss didn't react at all. He just kept munching on peanuts. When the gust of wind came, Ding Ming would slowly move to the side. It was strange. Ding Ming's speed was clearly very slow, but the gust of wind really swept past him like a breeze. He was completely fine. Ren Yihong was stunned. How could it be so strange? He dodged it just by moving a few steps? Fine, I'll show you what I'm capable of. Ren Yihong pushed off the ground, and the armor shot out like a cannonball. In the blink of an eye, he was in front of Ding Ming. The sword in his right hand swung towards Ding Ming's head. This sword could not be said to be weak. With a flash of sword light, a crisp sound rang out from the ground. A ghastly gash was actually cut open on the shiny alloy steel plate. Since the sword could cut through the steel plate, it definitely didn't hit Ding Ming. Ding Ming returned to his original position. This time, he had clearly flashed back. This Ren Yihong's reaction was quite good. His left hand backhanded the sword and stabbed Ding Ming. Not only was his movement clean and neat, but it was also seamless. The sword quickly pierced through Ding Ming's chest, but Ding Ming's image was gradually fading. Ren Yihong's heart sank. He knew that he had stabbed the doppelganger. At the same time, he also made a preliminary judgment. The other party was a light speed type battle monarch, and he was sure that Ding Ming was a beginner level battle monarch. This was because the aura that Ding Meng had revealed was only this much. Ren Hong slowly turned around. Only then did he realize that Ding Meng had moved to the center of the arena. The arena was about 200 meters long, and the opponent had moved 100 meters in a flash. This proved that his mastery of the Lightspeed series was also extraordinary. But so what? Ren Hong was equipped with battle armor, and his energy was 3 times that of the opponent. This battle was a sure win situation. Next, Ren Hong took a step, flew, and thrust forward. He continuously attacked with his sword. His sword style was very characteristic of a sect. The speed of his attacks was one of his main characteristics, and the transition of his moves and the continuity of his movements were his main characteristics. Thus, in the eyes of the audience, it created the illusion that Ren Hong was surrounding Crazed Berserker and wildly hacking at him. Crazed Berserker couldn't even catch his breath. However, Ding Meng's fans had a third-person perspective. Ding Meng flashed back and forth in a dazzling array of sword styles, causing everyone to feel dizzy and nauseous. Of course, if they felt nauseous, it meant that boss Crazed Berserker wasn't injured at all. After a few more rounds of attacks, Ding Meng flashed to Ren Hong's original position and was still chewing peanuts. This caused Ren Hong's mentality to change a little. He also knew that this was a trick that Lightspeed series origin ability users often used. They wouldn't attack you directly, but instead would exhaust your stamina and find the right opportunity to deal a fatal blow. Just continue to exhaust your stamina. When the time is up, you won't even be able to launch a single attack. The system will still give you a score, Ren Hong coldly said. In fact, this was also a point that many fans were concerned about. The time limit of a match was 30 minutes. If the two sides couldn't determine the winner, then the system would give the score. Everyone knew the system's score. Whoever attacked more, who fought more beautifully, who had more advantages, and so on, would get a higher score. Ding Meng glanced at him. Who told you that I would lose? Ren Hong sneered. You only know how to dodge and don't dare to attack. Isn't that the case? Ding Meng helplessly sighed. You don't understand. Actually, you've already lost. I've lost. Ren Hong was so angry that he laughed. Are you still asleep? Ding Meng sighed. In theory, this Xiao warrior armor of yours can increase your energy by several times. However, you neglected one point. This armor is made of high alumina, chlorine, and other alloys. It's very heavy. You originally had a slight speed advantage, but after equipping this armor, this advantage has been lost. So what? Ren Hong realized that his opponent was quite knowledgeable. Ding Meng's eyelids drooped. So you can't even withstand my takeout clothes. Ha ha ha. Ren Hong raised his head and laughed. What a joke. An assassin who doesn't even dare to attack. What's the point of saying all this? If you have the guts, then fight with me. I'll let you know what Lingwu swordsmanship is. Ding Meng waved his hand. No. You misunderstood me. It's not that I'm not attacking. I'm buying time for you. What do you mean? Buying time for me? Ren Hong was confused again. Ding Meng said calmly, once I make a move, you won't have any time to perform. I saw that your live stream popularity has increased by tens of thousands in just a few minutes. It's not easy to get fans. I'll let you perform for a while longer. Shameless. Ren Hong was furious. I've never seen such an arrogant person in my life. Ding Meng waved his hand. Sai, you've seen it now. Go to hell. Ren Hong raised his sword and ran towards Ding Meng. All right. Ding Meng was helpless. He gave Ren Hong a chance, but Ren Hong didn't cherish it. Then I'll make my move. As he said this, Ren Hong secretly prepared himself. Both of them were monarchs and had some skills. He mustn't underestimate his opponent. However, no matter how prepared Ren Hong was, he couldn't have imagined how sudden Ding Meng's attack would be. Ding Meng took out a peanut from his food bag, held it between his fingernail, and casually flicked it at Ren Hong. At that moment, the various warning systems inside the armor quickly flashed red. This was a warning signal. The ordinary-looking peanut actually contained a lot of energy. Ren Hong didn't have time to rush towards it. He quickly activated his energy shield. With a bang, Millions of pairs of eyes saw clearly that the peanuts were immediately turned into dust when they hit the shield, but at the same time, the shield was also hit and disappeared without a trace. What the F***CK is going on? Did the armor malfunction? Didn't I just do some maintenance the day before yesterday? Rennie Hong was still in a daze when Ding Meng's voice rang out again. Here I come again. Pa. The crisp sound of a finger flicking could be heard. In the eyes of outsiders, this was just an ordinary peanut, but in Rennie Hong's eyes, it was as terrifying as a starship missile. He subconsciously raised his sword to protect his chest. Clang. The echo of his voice was exceptionally loud. The curved sword was gone because it was knocked out of his hand by the peanut and flew out of the arena. Clang! It was another long and drawn-out echo. The remaining curved sword was knocked out of his hand before he could even raise it. Rennie Hong felt both his arms go numb. While he was still in shock, the red light of the mech armor's alarm was already flashing. Bang! This time, it was a muffled sound because the entire armor was knocked back more than 20 meters. The system showed that the damage was 24%. The arena was dead silent because this was simply an unbelievable scene. However, the live broadcast room was boiling. Oh my God, am I seeing things? You can F***King play like this? For Peanuts broke the shield, knocked it out of the hand, and knocked it back. Can you believe it? My F***King eyes can't keep up. I only saw the boss flick it 4 times. This power is invincible. Look at that mother ***cur. He's already an idiot. Didn't he say he would fight properly if he had the guts? 6666666. Rennie Hong was indeed shocked silly. Just a casual peanut from his opponent was already so powerful. How is this a battle monarch? He was a F***king expert who pretended to be weak. Why was he so unlucky to meet such a person? Rennie Hong wanted to cry, but had no tears. I'm going to attack again. Ding Meng's voice came again. Wait. Rennie Hong hurriedly waved his hand. Ding Meng frowned and said, What's wrong with you again? Rennie Hong's answer immediately shocked both sides. Brother, crazy explosion. When we go outside later, can you give me an autograph? Ding Meng threw the peanut into his mouth and said, Well, you're worth teaching. Rennie Hong immediately lowered his head and said respectfully, I admit defeat. All the fan screens showed the result of the system. Crazy explosion wins. This time, Rennie Hong's live broadcast room exploded. F***CK. You were so fierce before. Why are you scared now? Your opponent hasn't even moved his feet, and you admit defeat? Didn't you say you were going to show off and slap his face? Your face was slapped a little too quickly. Support your ass. Lingual aristocrat family has never disappointed anyone. Haha. You're still laughing at him for being a delivery man. You can't even beat a writer. So F***king embarrassing. This is Lingual aristocrat family. Voluntarily surrendering. F***CKU. F***CKU. Let's go. Let's go to that crazy live broadcast room and have a look. Wait, I'm going to. 233333. Ding Meng's popularity was not very high to begin with. With the arrival of Rennie Hong's fans, the popularity of his live broadcast room suddenly soared to more than 4 million. Although these fans were ordinary people, it did not mean that they had no foresight. The peanut broke through the armor's shield and repelled the armor. This kind of thing was usually seen in movies. They did not expect it to happen in the real world. F***CK. Only this kind of expert was worthy of fans. For a moment, Ding Meng's live broadcast room was in a mess. Why are there so many new faces? Are they fans of that dumb *SS Rennie Hong? Yes. Rennie Hong is a dumb *SS. He actually mocked Crazy Explosion. I'm here specifically. Is Crazy Explosion something you can call? All the scumbags, stand up and send the boss to the next round. Newcomers, take note. No advertisements, no spam, no pornographic pictures, no photos, show your 3 measurements, give out big red packets, act cool for 5 minutes, no comments for 2 hours, F***CK. There are advertisements. What kind of rubbish are they posting? Small websites? Brother, let's talk privately. Upstairs, I've already reported you. Just wait to be shut down. Do you believe that I'll find someone to beat you up? 666666. Brother Foam, you're so straightforward. The hot pot flavored rice crust was tossed out decisively. The paper bag flew into the air. Ding Ming stretched out his hand to catch it. However, the paper bag suddenly tore as it fell, and the melon seeds inside burst with a bang. Anyone with a little bit of eyesight could see that the bag did not contain melon seeds at all, but metal blades similar to melon seeds. Obviously, it was a sharp weapon. There were at least 40 or 50 melon seeds in this bag. They spread out like fairies scattering flowers, forming a net that pulled Ding Ming toward them. Each melon seed shone with a cold light and moved extremely fast. This hot pot flavored rice crust was much better than Rennie Hong's. At the same time, Ding Ming activated his origin energy, and Hercules' armor slammed into Ding Ming like an iron wall. His fist, which was as big as a casserole, smashed toward Ding Ming's head. There was a muffled bang. Everyone heard the sound of the fist hitting someone, but it was not Ding Ming's head that was broken, because Ding Ming was still holding his hand up to catch the melon seeds while lowering his head to eat the chicken drumstick. The metal melon seeds were sucked into his palm as if by magic, and the hot pot flavored rice crust fist happened to be caught by his raised left hand. The fans were stunned, and so was the hot pot flavored rice crust. What was going on? Ding Ming's expression did not change. This coffee is a bit bitter, and there is no sugar. The mashed potatoes are a bit bland, and there is no salt. As for the 100 flavor melon seeds, they are too hard to crack. Brother Ba, you should take them back. When he said the last sentence, the hot pot flavored rice crust realized that something was wrong. There seemed to be a layer of suction in his opponent's palm, and his fist could not hit it, nor could he take it back. Under the gaze of many fans, Ding Ming did not even move, and the hot pot flavored rice crust was directly knocked back. He fell very awkwardly, and the Hercules armor rumbled and rolled a few times on the arena. How the F***CK was this possible? The hot pot flavored rice crust stood up again, and a pair of electronic eyes kept flashing. Obviously, he was analyzing Ding Ming's aura fluctuations. He was obviously just a beginner warlord, so how could he defeat him with just one palm? He was equipped with the latest Hercules armor, and he was defeated just like that? Was his opponent too strong, or was he too weak? Actually, the problem was also with the armor. Many contestants were equipped with high-quality armor. In theory, their energy would increase by several times, and their strength would naturally increase as well. This was especially true for the Battle Monarch level contestants. Everyone had a misconception that if their index increased, they would have a chance to fight against a Battle Saint. It was not impossible for them to win. However, in the eyes of a real master, if you were equipped with armor, it meant that you did not have confidence in yourself. The reason was very simple. If you needed armor to support you, it meant that you were not that good. Without armor, you would only be weaker. Ding Ming thought this way. When he saw that both of his opponents were equipped with armor, he was relieved. Even if they used all their strength, they would not be able to defeat him. You're not bad, better than the last one. The last one couldn't even get close to me, but you could. Not bad. Ding Ming chewed on a chicken leg and looked at him with a smile that wasn't a smile. Hot pot flavored rice crust was so angry. You ate my chicken leg, drank my coffee, swallowed my hot pot base, and now you're mocking me? I don't believe it. Hot pot flavored rice crust rushed out again, pouncing like a fierce tiger. This time, he used all his strength. The surface of his armor was covered with an orange layer. He was clearly a warlord of the adamantium system, and his strength was quite strong. Before he even landed on the ground, his aura had already crushed the steel plates on the ground. In the vision of hot pot flavored rice crust, his fists were like meteors catching up with the moon, exploding crazy shoulders. The other party absolutely couldn't dodge. One of the biggest characteristics of the steel system's origin energy was the confinement force field, and now half of the ring was under the confinement of this energy force field. Just as his fist was about to hit his opponent's temple, Hot pot-flavored rice crust's vision suddenly tilted, and his whole body spun. In the eyes of the fans, Ding Ming directly kicked towards the sky, and the huge armor immediately flew out. However, the Hercules armor was very good. The back and soles of its boots spewed out crystal flames. Although hot pot-flavored rice crust flew out of the arena, he quickly stabilized his body and hovered in the air. I'll let you have a taste of the power of my new armor. Hot pot-flavored rice crust stopped pretending and simply showed his cards. The steel palms of the armor changed into cannon muzzles. When he raised his palms, two straight and bright blue rays shot towards Ding Ming. These rays were as thick as an arm, and a normal warlord would definitely not be able to block them. Ding Ming also raised his palms, and the rays immediately sank into his palms. F***CK, it's over. Boss is in trouble. Can he block it with his bare hands? Definitely not. This is a F***King railgun. What's this? Oh no, it's rice crust. It actually has such a big move. The fans discussed animatedly, and Ding Ming secretly laughed. You dare to call this a big move? I'll show you what a real big move is. Ding Ming blocking the energy fusion cannon with his bare hands did not surprise hot pot-flavored rice crust, because this was a human's instinctive reaction. In his imagination, Ding Ming would at most last 5 seconds before disappearing into light. However, 10 seconds later, Ding Ming was still standing, and there were no signs of him melting at all. Hot pot-flavored rice crust was still in shock when Ding Ming's two middle fingers suddenly bent 90 degrees, and two purple rays as thin as chopsticks shot out from his fingertips towards his opponent. This move was a classic example of the Diamond Star melting art absorbing energy, then converting it and supplementing it with pure source energy. Bang! When the purple ray burned hot pot-flavored rice crust's shoulder, a large piece of metal fell off the armor, and black smoke came out from it. The system's voice said, "Current damage rate 32%. Hot pot-flavored rice crust was scared out of his wits when he heard the voice. The damage rate was 32%, and he would die in 5 seconds at most. In fact, it did not even take 5 seconds. As soon as the ray hit, the armor disintegrated, and all the major parts fell off. The body of the armor was covered in smoke, and all the systems failed. With a loud bang, Hercules' armor was burned to pieces in the black smoke. Hot pot-flavored rice crust fell to the ground outside the arena with a plop. His whole body was burned, and his original face could not be seen. Achoo! Hot pot-flavored rice crust coughed loudly. The system subtitles appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Crazy explosion victory. 2 consecutive wins. Ding Ming stood at the edge of the arena and smiled. Brother Ba, you're really good. How was the barbecue? How was the taste? Hot pot-flavored rice crust? A large cloud of black smoke came out of his mouth. It was indeed hot pot-flavored. Naturally, the live broadcast room was jubilant. Just like Rennie Hong, hot pot-flavored rice crust live broadcast room was in an uproar. Countless fans changed sides. It was probably because hot pot-flavored rice crust was too pretentious, and this time they were slapped in the face. However, he was too unlucky to meet someone as strong as Ding Ming in the second match. In fact, Ding Ming did not even use much strength, and he was already defeated. The next 3 matches were the same. The system probably felt that Ding Ming's popularity was not high enough, so it matched him with a group of battle lords equipped with armor. The 5th match was an advanced battle lord, but he was defeated by Ding Ming in less than 3 moves. This was how it was in the early stages of the competition. The opponents were all mediocre. Of course, this was based on Ding Ming's level. However, the fans did not think so. Boss, you didn't even need to make a move to defeat a war monarch. What's more, it was a war monarch equipped with armor. Who knows how strong you are? As the competition progressed, Ding Ming would definitely meet strong opponents. Currently, his popularity had soared to 2 million, and he had a 5-match winning streak. The 6th match was about to begin. After the white light flashed, the map changed. It was no longer the arena, but a brand new map. Chapter 916. Looking at this map, Ding Ming felt as if he had returned to his primary consciousness space. Under the night sky, the ocean stretched as far as the eye could see. The coastline was covered with fine sand, and there was no end to it. On the shore, there was a stone forest filled with strange rocks. Higher up and further away, there was a continuous mountain range. A golden moon hung high in the sky, and the low-lying waves sparkled. This scene seemed rather poetic to the fans, but as soon as Ding Ming entered it, he immediately sensed a serious and murderous aura. This was because, under the night sky, there was a person standing quietly on the beach. The only information given by the system was the opponent's ID, Lone Ranger. Other than that, there was no other information. This Lone Ranger was dressed in black, but his face was not covered. It was a very ordinary face, and his face was even full of holes. At first glance, he looked like a middle-aged uncle. However, Ding Ming had seen countless people, and his eyes were sharp. Although there was a saying that a person's appearance was born from his heart, a person's elegance was revealed through his temperament. In Ding Ming's perception, although this Lone Ranger's face was ordinary, there was a sense of coldness between his eyebrows. He did not look like a middle-aged man. He had a feeling that he had seen this person somewhere before. Soon, he knew why he had this feeling. It was because there was a long sword in a black scabbard on Lone Ranger's belt. This was almost identical to the attire of Hidden Front Number 2, an ugly woman. No wonder he gave off a very dangerous feeling. Hey, have you guys noticed? Why do I feel that the atmosphere is a little strange? Yeah, I feel it too. This opponent is different from the previous ones. Boss seems to be a little nervous. Yeah, even the map has changed. I think this guy might be an expert too. I don't know why, but I feel a little cold. The fans were discussing all at once. Even the fans had the same premonition. Ding Ming was already prepared. This could be a fierce battle. He was secretly observing Lone Ranger, and Lone Ranger was also quietly scanning him. Now that the countdown had ended, neither of them made a move immediately. Lone Ranger suddenly said, "You're not bad." Ding Ming said, "You too." Du Xing asked, "Keep it." This was a very strange question, but only the person involved understood. Right now, they were still in the Wind and Cloud Palace. Once they encountered a strong enemy, if they didn't hold back, it was very likely that their true identity would be exposed. For those contestants who wanted to become famous, it did not matter if their identities were exposed or not. However, for some experts, it would be best if they could avoid being exposed. Therefore, when Lone Ranger asked this question, Ding Ming immediately knew that the other party was definitely not weak. Moreover, the other party had also sensed that he was not weak either. "Sure," Ding Ming replied calmly. Du Xing's face seemed to have a trace of satisfied smile. "Since we are all monarch-level origin ability users, then let's have a fair competition." Experts indeed had a tacit understanding. What he meant was that everyone's strength was limited to the battle monarch level. Ding Ming said, "All right." As soon as he finished speaking, Lone Ranger appeared in front of him and kicked Ding Ming's chest with extreme ferocity. This time, it wasn't just the fans who were shocked. Even Ding Ming was a little surprised. His speed was really quite good. Ding Ming suddenly bounced up from where he was standing and stretched his body in the air. He was originally standing, but now his body was leaning forward. At the same time, he used a single palm to strike his opponent. This move was very clever because the forward kick was to first accumulate strength and then kick out. It was very important to take the initiative in terms of momentum. However, with Ding Ming's jump, if his opponent continued to attack, his palm would strike his opponent's head first. Lone Ranger suddenly leaned back. His left foot landed on the ground, and his right foot changed from the forward kick to the sky to kick Ding Ming's lower body. This change was even more wonderful. Both of their thoughts were to attack Ding Ming to save Ding Ming. Now, if Ding Ming wanted to attack, Lone Ranger's foot would kick his butt. With a whoosh, Ding Ming somersaulted in the air and landed on the beach in front of him. However, Du Xing's upturned kick spun in the air like a windmill and kicked out just like before. With a clang, a crescent-shaped red origin energy mirror image flew out from his boots, sticking close to the beach as it flew towards Ding Ming, who had just landed on the ground. like a meteor chasing after the moon. This mirror image was no small matter. In the eyes of the fans, a strong light flashed on the beach. Not only was the fine sand swept up by the sword light, but it was also vaporized in an instant. It was clear that the source energy's temperature was very high. Ding Ming didn't panic. He also struck out with a single palm. The source energy mirror image suddenly changed direction and flew towards the middle of Zhonghai. It instantly disappeared into the water. There was no explosion on the surface of the sea. Instead, it was boiling. A large amount of dense white gas filled the air. Even the moonlight became a lot more hazy. The live broadcast channels of both sides were dead silent. It was likely that many people had never seen such a killing move before. These two people had never encountered such a powerful opponent since the start of the competition. Lone Ranger didn't attack anymore. He stood in place and carefully sized up Ding Ming. It was as if he was trying to remember which famous person from the Federal Empire this person was. Ding Ming's face was also very gloomy. His train of thought was different from most people's. This Lone Ranger was obviously good at swordsmanship. However, he didn't even move his hands, let alone draw his sword. All he used was leg techniques. If even his lower body was like this, his hand strength was probably even more powerful. In fact, before the competition, Ding Ming had told Dai Yi and the others that they definitely couldn't use the divine light energy in this stage. His purpose was to save it for later in the competition. There was no other reason. He didn't believe that an expert from the demons wouldn't participate in this grand event. Now, this Lone Ranger gave him such a strong premonition. He seriously suspected that his opponent's sword was the sword of the demons. In his thoughts, Ding Ming's body swayed. This time, he took the initiative to attack. He stepped forward, rushed forward, and threw a straight punch. Not only did Lone Ranger see it clearly, but the fans also saw it clearly. The speed of this punch wasn't fast. On the contrary, it was very slow. However, the slower it was, the more serious Lone Ranger's face became. The extremes of martial arts were two extremes. When one was fast to the extreme, one was strong. When one was slow to the extreme, one was also strong. When this punch rushed over, Lone Ranger followed Ding Ming's footsteps and retreated. At the same time, he waved one hand and the scabbard appeared in his hand. The entire sword whooshed in a circle and formed a black disc in front of him. Boom, 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 boom. Finally, an explosion occurred on the beach. Strings of sand and stones shot up into the sky. The fist and the scabbard hadn't really made contact, but the energy that burst forth was already so strong. Suddenly, Ding Ming changed his fist into a palm. A fiery red origin flame spewed out from the center of his palm. Following that, his left palm struck out once again. The origin flame, in the form of a flame, immediately transformed into a huge phoenix that lit up the night sky. Lone Ranger's expression finally changed. His opponent's punch was actually the suppression of the astral winds. The origin flame was the origin energy that was released, and the fire phoenix was still the origin energy mirror image. He didn't know what kind of technique Crazed Explosion used, but when these three things were added together, it was the classic three-layered waves of the black ice annihilation palm. This guy had actually forcefully used an ice element martial technique on heat origin energy. Most importantly, he had succeeded. Lone Ranger felt the pressure from the front suddenly increase. Even his breathing became sluggish. This guy's battle monarch level energy was actually this strong. At this moment, the black sword had already rotated to its limit. Lone Ranger's hands also seemed to be burning red. He also struck out with both of his palms. The circular shape that the black sword had formed immediately transformed into a huge fireball. In the eyes of the fans, this wasn't inferior to a super missile. When the two collided, there was an earth-shattering explosion. The fiery red origin energy immediately burst out in all directions. The large stone forest on the shore was blown to smithereens, and the seawater beneath their feet immediately turned into smoke. A large crater with a diameter of 20 meters was formed at the point of impact. The inside of the crater was filled with dense cracks. The broadcast room was completely silent. The fans on both sides were dumbfounded. This was a true expert. Both sides were forced back by the explosion. As they retreated, Ding Meng once again struck out with his palm. The fire phoenix from before was already shocking enough, but this time it was a mirror image of a red tiger. The tiger opened its mouth and roared as if it wanted to bite Lone Ranger to pieces. Not good. Lone Ranger realized that Ding Meng's attacks were getting stronger and stronger. Under such circumstances, he was still able to use the Yang Tiger Palm. Just as the tiger's head was about to reach him, all the fans saw a white light flash before their eyes. It was like a meteor streaking across the sky. In just a short moment, Lone Ranger's figure was already at the edge of the crater. The Yang Tiger Palm actually missed, and Ding Meng's body was twitching slightly. When they took a closer look, there was a cut on Ding Meng's shoulder, and fresh blood was flowing out of it. It was obvious that Lone Ranger had used some kind of martial arts technique to injure Crazed Explosion. It's a sword. It's definitely his sword. No way. This kid is so powerful. He actually managed to injure Boss. This is not good. Can Boss hold on? I think it's over. At this moment, the two of them finally stood still. It looked like the outcome of the battle had been decided. Lone Ranger sized up the injured Ding Meng with a strange look in his eyes. Then, he opened his mouth and said something shocking. I admit defeat. System caption. Crazed Explosion wins. 6 consecutive victories. Hua, the live broadcast rooms of both sides immediately exploded. You F***er. You have such a huge advantage, yet you actually admit defeat and enter the loser's bracket. What are you thinking? Ding Meng's fans also expressed that this was really hard to understand. However, voluntarily admitting defeat was voluntarily admitting defeat, so the system would naturally judge Lone Ranger as the loser. In fact, only Ding Meng himself knew what had just happened. Lone Ranger had suddenly flashed past the Yang Tiger Palm at the last moment. At the same time, he had pulled out his sword in extremely fast speed and struck Ding Meng's shoulder. Unfortunately, it wasn't a black magic sword, but a shiny, ancient sword. As for why Lone Ranger admitted defeat, the reason was quite simple. It was because the origin energy he had used had already surpassed the standard of a high-level battlelord. He had used the energy of a battle saint. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to injure Ding Meng. At least this person had kept his promise. Is that really the case? Liang Yuran expressed her curiosity. Ji Chichua had also seen the exchange just now. I don't think so. This Lone Ranger clearly didn't want to reveal his true strength too early. Lan Bing nodded. I've seen many of the matches in the Wind and Cloud Palace. Everyone hasn't used their true strength yet. There are truly a lot of experts this year. Chapter 9:17. After passing the solo round, Ding Meng did not feel any pressure in the next 4 rounds. In the end, he advanced to the pinnacle with a record of 10 consecutive wins. However, his popularity was still not high. Currently, he only had 98 million fans. Many screens had risen in the Bingy Group's conference room. Of course, the screen in the middle showed the popularity ranking. Just as Lan Bing had analyzed, the ranking had changed. Number 10, Dream Immortal Traveler, 93 million points. Number 09, Bingy, Lu Qing, 130 million points. Number 08, Apocalypse, Baiyu, 180 million points. Number 07, Long Feiyang, 200 million points. Number 06, Bingy, Dai E, 390 million points. Number 05, Rainbow, AI Sindel, 400 million points. Number 04, Kneel Before Me, 540 million points. Number 03, Beidou Jichenyu, 680 million points. Number 02, Xing Hong, Ling Xingqi, 690 million points. Number 01, Lei Jingtian, 800 million points. Looking at the ranking, Ding Meng could only feel depressed. Even Dream Immortal Traveler, who was at the bottom of the ranking, had 3 times more popularity than him. Dai's popularity was 10 times more than his. However, the ranking could still be explained. The fans were still selling to beauties because the top 10 were all goddesses, especially Ling Xingqi and Ji Chenyu. The most exaggerated one was Lei Jingtian. He was indeed shocking. He had 800 million fans, which was enough to crush everything. How could he not be powerful? The four-eyed man's eyelids drooped. He is the champion for 2 consecutive years. He is the favorite to win the championship. Ding Ming said, "What about you guys? How popular are you now?" Mousie muttered, "Brother Ding, we have been eliminated." Oh, Ding Ming was a little surprised. Even Dinking Hongshan and Azuma were eliminated? Liang Yiran smiled. The first person the four-eyed man met was Miss Lu. The four-eyed man was a little depressed. "I resisted for a minute, unlike some people." Mousie said angrily, "What do you mean?" Ding Ming was curious. Did Mousie also die in the first round? Who did you meet? Who else would he bump into? He would definitely bump into his own people. This person was Junling. Now that Junling had 500 million fans, these fans gave her a nickname, Kneel Sister, which meant that no matter who bumped into her, they had to kneel down. This was because Junling's attacks were ruthless and fierce. Basically, she could end the battle in one move. When Four Eyes met Lu Qing, he was still able to resist for dozens of seconds. But when the Russian met Junling, he immediately surrendered his gun and admitted defeat. The two guys were ambitiously prepared to fight a big battle in the losers group, but in the end, they were both eliminated in the first round. Liang Yiran put away her smile. Both of them lost to the same person, Du Xing, who fought with you. Ding Ming's expression was thoughtful. It's not an injustice to lose to him. This guy has a lot of resources. At this moment, a new screen appeared in front of Lan Bing, displaying a large number of images and data. Ding Ming's eyes were sharp, and he noticed that most of them were pictures and information about the contestants. "Are you guys analyzing and comparing them?" Ji Chenxue explained. "It's the princess and Xi and Jie who are doing the screening." "What are they screening for?" Ji Chenxue said. "After the Storm Palace, there aren't many contestants left. Some of them are using their real names, but there are also some with fake IDs. They're analyzing their data based on the contestants' styles and characteristics in a competition and comparing them with real people." Damn, they could even do this. However, Ding Ming could understand. Xi and Jie had the ability to do this, and Little Rascal Little Love was also an expert. "Are there any results?" Ding Ming asked. Lan Bing nodded solemnly. "There are already a few people whose identities have been confirmed. The similarity is more than 90%. You have to be careful when you meet them in the next round." "Who is it?" Ding Ming was interested. Lan Bing operated the control panel, and a bald head man's picture appeared on the screen. His ID was Chuang Yu, official nameless. Ding Ming had seen this ID on the leaderboard before, but he did not recognize this person. However, he was sure of one thing, and that was that this person was a member of the Guan family sent by Guan Xinqing. "You should know him," Lan Bing explained, and then she switched to another picture. The person in the picture was an old man in black clothes. Ding Ming suddenly remembered that when he and Lan Bing had disguised themselves as the ancestral dragon couple to visit the Guan family, there had been 2 men in black clothes around Guan Xinqing, one old and one young. The person in the picture was the old man. Ji Chenxue calmly explained, "He is indeed a nameless person. He used to be a very famous pirate commander in the Fertile Chalk Star system." Ding Ming listened quietly. Under normal circumstances, pirates would at most have a leader, and the most amazing one would be the captain of a pirate group. However, it was rare for someone to be called a commander. This meant that this pirate leader's influence had already grown to a very large scale. Before Guan Xinqing rose to prominence, he relied on him to obtain a lot of information that even the military could not obtain. From then on, he embarked on the path of cooperation with the military. "You should know about the history of Guan Xinqing's family." Ji Chenxue continued to explain. Later on, Chuang Yu grew stronger and stronger, and this commander surrendered himself to the Guan family and changed his name to Long Yu. He announced to the public that he was a relative of the Guan family. Ding Ming suddenly understood. No wonder Guan Xinqing dared to deal with the imperial military as a civilian. This is where his confidence lies. Changing his surname to Long. Could it be related to Guan Lin's mother? Ji Qinshue said, they told the public that Long Yu was Long Lin's distant uncle. I don't think he's a real uncle, right? Liang Yiran asked suspiciously. Ji Qinshue nodded. My guess is that it's not true. Long Yu used to have a lot of influence in the fertile chalk star system, but after he became the uncle of the Guan family's wife, the situation changed. Lan Bing understood the logic behind this. A pirate leader like him must have had dealings with both the Chuang Yu and the Frogmen. This is definitely not something the military could tolerate. However, after he washed his hands clean and became an elder of the Guan family, no one would dare to touch him. Ji Qinshue said, very few people in the empire know about this. I'm afraid that even Chancellor Wenyang does not know about this. This was all told to me by my grandfather when he was still alive. He told me not to provoke this person at all costs. This shows how strong he is. Ding Ming smiled bitterly to himself. To think that such a powerful person would be hidden among the contestants. This Long you probably had the same mindset as him, going the low-key route. His popularity was only 28 million. Lan Bing suddenly switched to Lone Ranger's picture. Ji Qinshue explained, this Lone Ranger you fought with, I personally think he's the young man you and Director Lan met at the Guan family's residence. His name is Long Xing. On the surface, he's Long Yu's grandson and Guan Xinqing's bodyguard. In reality, he's Long Yu's disciple. His strength is not to be underestimated. Ding Ming nodded. This was right. That Lone Ranger always gave him an inexplicable sense of pressure. So his real identity was an expert from the Guan family. Then the question was, why did the Guan family send out these two experts? Was their goal to win the championship? The Guan family definitely did not lack money, but the prize pool of the Fengyun gathering was attractive enough. Ding Ming felt that Long Yu and Long Xing's participation in the competition was not that simple. Following which, Lan Bing took out a few more files, all of which had been sent over by Xinjie. They were all detailed comparisons and analyses, mainly pointing out the hidden players. Ding Ming couldn't help but sigh in admiration. There were only a few truly powerful super experts on the leaderboards. Who is this Lei Jingtian? Ding Ming asked. Ji Qinshue smiled bitterly. Sorry, I know a little about the secrets of the Empire, but I don't know anything about the Federation. Lan Bing also agreed. This Lei Jingtian is the 8th and 9th champion. He is very strong. He won the last 2 championships with overwhelming momentum. However, his background is very mysterious. No one has ever heard of his true identity. Of course, our low level is also one of the reasons. Up until now, we haven't even been able to find out about Xin Hong's trump card. This was very normal. Ding Ming also believed that a character like Ling Xingqi was definitely not the Xin Hong group's true trump card. Trump cards were always used at the last moment. As he continued to browse through the screen, Ding Ming found that the information on Dream Return was also included. Who is she? Ji Qinshue smiled very happily this time. It's normal for Princess Xinjie and the others not to recognize her, but I definitely recognize her. Her name is Nanxuan. Ding Ming frowned. Why does this name sound so familiar? Liang Yiran revealed a shocked expression. Nanxuan? Is she the #1 goddess of the Holy Grail Federation? The Nanxuan? That's her. Ji Qinshue nodded with certainty. Lan Bing was also shocked. Is it really Nanxuan? Ji Qinshue said, I've seen her in person. I still can't forget her temperament. It was also in outer space. At the time, she was injured and recuperated on our fleet in Beidou for 2 months. Nanxuan was a very famous and mysterious person in the Holy Grail Federation. The public knew of her because of the beauty ranking. Everyone knew that Nanxuan was the #1 goddess, and that she was on par with Ji Qinshue in the Empire. However, almost no one had seen her in person. The reason why she was mysterious was not only because her whereabouts were elusive, but also because of the war in the Devouring Sector 100 years ago. At that time, the president happened to see Nanxuan in person. At the time, he was shocked and began to pursue her passionately. It was said that the two of them had some connection. For her, the president ignored the objections of the public and pursued her to Meteor City, then to outer space. The devouring sector took advantage of the absence of the president and the cabinet to seize the rare opportunity to launch a large-scale attack. At the beginning of the war, a large area of territory was lost. This was also a large part of the reason. When the war ended, the president was dismissed because of this incident. Nanshuan also disappeared in the vast sea of people, and there was no more news of her. To some extent, Nanshuan was a beauty who could bring disaster to a country. This was not a derogatory statement, but the public recognized her because of her mystery. Mystery created distance, distance created fantasy, and fantasy created beauty. It's really her? Liang Yiran still could not believe it. However, Ji Qinshua's expression was resolute. Believe me, it's definitely her. There's no mistake. Her strength is indeed extraordinary. Ding Meng was concerned about this. This year's competition was indeed filled with experts. Ji Qinshu nodded and said, I don't know exactly how strong she is, but there's one thing I'm certain of. She's not below me. Not below Ji Qinshu, which meant that the only people in the Bingyi group who could contend against her were Ding Meng and Junling Dai. He was clearly not convinced. Is she really that strong? I've only heard of her stunning beauty, but I've never heard of her being an origin energy expert. Lan Bing nodded and said, the Storm Palace phase will end tomorrow. The peak phase will be divided into groups. We'll know when we see who the seeded contestants are. Chapter 9:18. The Storm Palace took a total of 3 days to come to a conclusion. Out of the 50,000 contestants, only 128 were left. The remaining 128 were the elites of the elites. They were all experts above the Battle Saint level. Of course, there were definitely some war gods among them. The next stage was the Summit Showdown. This was the highlight of the Storm Assembly. Because the famous scenes of the previous carnival were mostly born during the Summit Showdown, all the contestants would be divided into 32 groups. Each group would have 4 contestants, and one of them would be a seeded contestant chosen by the officials. Looking at the list of seeded contestants, everyone finally understood how accurate Lan Bing and Ji Qinshua's analysis was. Number 1, Lei Jingtian. Number 2, Zhong Wuji. Number 3, Vaskai. Number 4, Sheng Hao. Yu Ming. Number 5, Apocalypse by Yu. Number 6, Neil Talauzi. Number 7, Rainbow, Eisendel. Number 8, Star Rainbow, Ling Xingqi. Number 9, Beidou, Ji Qinyu. Number 10, Bing Adai. Number 11, Dream Return. Number 12, Star Rainbow, Cold Autumn Night. Number 13, Red Moon, Li Xiaoyao. Number 14, Long Feiyong. Number 15, Misty Rain. Number 16, Wooden Boat. Number 17, Scar of Heaven. Number 18, Blue Moon. Number 19, Leisure Cloud. Number 20, Qi. Number 21, Wei Calm. Number 22, Sensitive. Number 23, I Am Dry. Number 24, Jean Tianyi. Number 25, Lien Song Gongzi. Number 26, Qi Family's eldest young master. Number 28, Ouyang Guang. Number 29, Bai Ku. Number 30, Official Wooming. Number 31, Lone Ranger. Number 32, Crazy Explosion. This list of seeded contestants gave everyone the feeling that they were split into 2 groups. The top half was filled with famous people, while the bottom half was filled with fake names. However, the truly powerful contestants were probably in the bottom half. The list of seeded contestants was determined by the system based on the previous matches. This was enough to explain the problem. Moreover, every seeded contestant's ID was worth tens of thousands of gold. Right now, the public relations teams of the Federal Empire had all been mobilized. They were all looking for information about these 32 contestants. Their goal was to offer them sky-high endorsement contracts. The top 2 contestants in each of the 32 groups would advance to the top 32. Next would be the top 16, top 8, top 4. In the end, only 2 contestants would advance to the Battle of the Kings. Before the group stage began, there was a lot drawing ceremony. The unseeded players would draw lots to decide which group they would be assigned to. Of course, everyone was most afraid of being assigned to group number 1. Thunderous Sky was waiting for you. The group that everyone wanted to be assigned to the most was group number 32. This was because many people had misconceptions. The group that was placed at the end of the group would definitely be weaker. Now, it seemed like Crazy Storm was the weakest group. There were still 2 days of rest before the Pinnacle Showdown. In fact, the virtual mirror in the Kijia server didn't need to rest. This was clearly the time given to those consortiums, companies, and sects by the officials. If you have a good impression of any contestants, please contact them quickly within the next 2 days. Our company has also received many business cooperation requests. Most of them are looking for Miss Dai and Miss Liu, Ji Chinxua explained with a smile. This was within Ding Meng's expectations. However, Dai Yi and Lu Qing both had the word Bingy in front of their names. It seemed that the outside world already knew that the Bingy Corporation was quite strong. The possibility of them looking for Dai Yi and Lu Qing to advertise was not high. Lan Bing hesitated and said, "Actually, there are more people looking for Miss Dai. We can consider 1 or 2 companies." Seeing her stuttering and uncharacteristic, Ding Ming knew that there was a problem. "What's the situation?" Lan Bing said helplessly. "Miss Dai, why don't you talk to Ding Ming yourself?" Dai Yi's expression was a little unnatural. "Ding Ming, do you still remember my big brother?" Dai Yi's big brother was called Dai Yu. He had taken the initiative to attack Ding Ming during the engagement ceremony in Flying Star City. Ding Ming frowned and said, "He looked for you?" Dai Yi hesitated and said, "My big brother also wanted me to help him advertise. He opened a company in Blue Pole Star City." In fact, Ding Ming also knew that among the 5 siblings of the Dai clan, Dai Yu had always taken care of Yao Manru and her mother. Back then, Dai Yu, as the eldest son, was caught in the middle of the Flying Star City incident. Later, Dai Ranjun had no hope of being promoted, and the Dai clan naturally declined. These children were also disappointing, especially Dai Yi's third brother, Dai Ningxing, who used to be Ding Ming's lackey when they were at Star Splendor University. This Dai Ningxing actually ran away with a large sum of money. Dai Ranjun was so angry that he was bedridden. Dai Yu had been running a trading company in Blue Pole Star City. In the past, he mainly provided materials for Yao Manru's research institute. Later, when Ding Ming made a scene in Flying Star City, Yao Manru and her mother broke off their relationship with the Dai clan. Dai Yu's company also deteriorated and was about to close down. Ding Ming sighed. "Don't advertise. I know it's not easy for your big brother. Don't worry about the others. Xiao Yi, tell him to close down his company and go to Annie's Research Institute or the Captain's Security Department to help." Dai Yi was shocked. "Okay, I'll inform him right away." This result was already very good for Dai Yi. The value of advertising for a seeded contestant of the Pinnacle Showdown was very high. It was impossible to waste it on someone like Dai Yu. If it weren't for Yao Manru taking Ding Wenhe in, Ding Ming would definitely refuse. Lan Bing suddenly said, "By the way, there's another cooperation matter that needs to be decided by you personally. This cooperation partner has specifically asked for you." Ding Ming was a little surprised. "Who is it?" Lan Bing said word by word. "Star Rainbow Group's transit string." Ding Ming was stunned. "Why is she looking for me at this time?" Ji Chinxua sighed. "It's obvious that she's here for the Feng Yun gathering." Lan Bing nodded. "Last night, she arrived at the Blue Moon branch in Blue Pole Star City and asked me to tell you that if you are free tonight, she wants to invite you to a meal at the Galaxy Dynasty Hotel. She said that she has something important to discuss." Ding Ming suddenly smiled. "I don't know what this woman is up to," Ji Chinxua said indifferently. "She should be looking for you for something." After escaping from the Norse Empire, Ji Chinxua's attitude towards the transit string had changed. In the past, as the CEO of Beidou, she had a very good relationship with the transit string. Although the transit string had saved her life, it had left her behind in Meteor City on the way back. This made her very unhappy. In the end, it was all because of the mischievous thoughts of the young miss. "I, Ji Chinxua, am a proud daughter of the heavens. Once I no longer have any value, how can you be so heartless?" Ding Ming was very clear about her thoughts. Ding Ming couldn't help but smile. "Hey, if you're asking for help, You should act like you're asking for help. Xiao Bing, tell her to come to the Bingy group tonight. I'll treat her to old Zhang's eel noodles. It's guaranteed to be enough. Lan Bing couldn't help but smile. Only someone like Ding Ming would treat the CEO of the Federation's second largest corporation to noodles. Ji Chenxue brushed her hair. I'll go too. After all, I'm a member of the Bingy group. Lan Bing glanced at her. It was very obvious that Ji Chenxue was a little dissatisfied with the transit string's visit at this time. In the evening, a luxurious flying car with the Xing rainbow logo landed on the tarmac of the Bingy group. The transit string looked the same as always. She was dressed professionally and looked very capable. Behind her was naturally her secretary, Jean Xiaoyan, who never left her side. Other than her, there was another person. The appearance of this person made Ding Ming reveal a surprised expression. He immediately understood the purpose of the transit string's visit. The transit string had always done things without benefits. However, she was more methodical than Ling Xingqi and Ling Xingwen. She would often bring you good news or benefits. At the very least, she wouldn't let you suffer a loss on the surface. The person behind Jean Xiaoyan was also a woman. This woman wasn't wearing a Taoist attire. Instead, she was wearing a simple trench coat and casual pants. Her aura was very outstanding. However, the woman's figure and face were exactly the same as Dream Return at the Fengyun gathering. Ding Ming and Lan Bing looked at each other. Their eyes were filled with surprise. If Dream Return was really Nanxuan, then one thing was certain. This Nanxuan was probably the same as Meng Yan. He had cultivated some kind of biochemical technique to make his appearance look exactly the same as the one in Star Wars. The transit string didn't treat Lan Bing as an outsider. The construction of your place is really fast. Lan Bing smiled. It's still far from your Xing Rainbow Corporation. The transit string sighed. That's not my Xing Rainbow Corporation. It would be great if I had my own territory. Lan Bing said, Do you think I'm a boss? I'm just an employee. The transit string looked at her meaningfully. You're not an employee either. You're the lady boss. Lan Bing said, I'm not the only lady boss. The transit string then turned to Ding Ming. Should I call you Ding Ming now? And call you Boss Ding? Ding Ming pondered and said, How did you recognize me? The transit string sighed. It wasn't easy for me to find you. You're definitely one of the 32 seated contestants. There's no need to even think about it. Ding Ming asked curiously. And then? Ling Xingxian said, I paid for the videos of all the contestants and analyzed them one by one. You hit really well. If it wasn't for the fight between you and that hot pot flavored rice crust, I probably wouldn't have been able to recognize you as Crazy Explosion. Ding Ming frowned and said, I didn't reveal any flaws in that fight. I didn't use much strength. The transit string smiled. If I remember correctly, before the Hercules armor was released, you fought a test version of this armor. You should know the strengths and weaknesses of the Shanghao armor. In the end, you disintegrated the armor in just a few seconds. I'm guessing that this contestant is most likely you, because only you know the weaknesses of the Shanghao armor so well. Ding Ming was immediately impressed. Sometimes he had to admit that the transit string was meticulous and amazing. The transit string looked behind him. I'm sure you're very interested in meeting this friend I brought. Ding Ming had already seen her. Ji Chenxue had already stepped forward and took the initiative to greet her. I haven't seen you in a long time. Hui Meng smiled gently. Chenxue, you're getting more and more beautiful. Just these two greetings were enough to prove that the person in front of him was the famous goddess Nanxuan. Moreover, her aura was the same as in battlecraft combat. She controlled her aura extremely well. If one wasn't at the level of Ding Ming, one would definitely not be able to tell. Otherwise, one would think that she was an ordinary person. Nanxuan also stepped forward and took the initiative to smile. Hello, Crazy Burst. Chapter 919. The lanterns were lit, and night was about to fall. Old Zhang's eel noodle restaurant on the commercial street of Bingy Group had been cleared out. Today, it was not the branch chef who was in charge, but the boss, Zheng Ming, who was wearing a white chef's uniform, cooking the noodles himself. Only a distinguished guest like Ding Ming could make him come in person. Old Zhang's eel noodle restaurant was now the signature delicacy of Blue Pole Star City, and it had been sold at a price close to the people for many years. It was especially popular among the public. Zhang Ming had always been grateful to Ding Ming for his help in the past. Of course, the transit string played a big part in opening the noodle restaurant from the underground city to the commercial street on the surface. At this moment, the two distinguished guests had come in person. Zhang Ming smiled and placed the plate with the noodle bowls on the table. "Brother Ding, Boss Ling, please enjoy." Perhaps affected by his mood, Ding Ming could not help but smile. "Zhang Ming, why are you smiling so happily? Did something good happen at home?" Lan Bing smiled and said, "Boss Zhang will be a father in 2 months, and I promised him that I will insert his advertisement on the back of your clothes." Ding Ming hurriedly said, "Congratulations." As soon as the delicious eel noodle restaurant was placed on the table, the hot aroma immediately aroused Hui Ming's appetite. "I can eat 1,000 bowls of this noodle. Crazy boss, you're treating today. You won't feel bad, right?" Ding Ming smiled and said, "Even if you eat all the stock in this restaurant today, I won't have any objections." Bingy Group was willing to advertise for Zhang Ming at the Wind and Cloud Gathering, which was worth at least millions of bowls of noodles. Everyone present was either rich or noble. What kind of good food had they not eaten before? On the contrary, this kind of street food greatly increased everyone's interest. However, the women were worried about their image, so they only tasted a bowl of noodles. After the meal, Zhang Ming brought all kinds of drinks. At this time, Ji Qinxue stood up. "I'll take Sister Sun around our company." Hui Ming smiled and said, "I don't mean anything else. I just want to visit Crazy Boss's territory." "Crazy Boss, you don't have any objections, right?" Ding Ming asked curiously, "What's there to see in this lousy place of mine?" Immortal Wandering Dream smiled even more gracefully. "It's not about the height of a mountain, but it's about the presence of an immortal. Your great name resounds like thunder in outer space. Your footprints can be found in the divine battle realm and the Greenwood faction." Ding Ming now had a whole new level of respect for this Nanshuan. It was rumored that she was hard to find, but it turned out that she was active in outer space. The fact that she was able to mention the names of the gods War Starfield and the Greenwood Starfield proved that her range of travel was quite wide. Nan Sun, it was indeed hard to find a beautiful woman. As soon as Ji Qinxue and Nanshuan left, the transit string said, "Xiaoyan, it's your first time here. You should learn more." Jean Xiaoyan understood and immediately stood up. She knew that the transit string had something important to discuss with Ding Ming. So she stood up and said, "President Ling, let me accompany Secretary Jean around." Seeing this, Zhang Ming hurried over to say goodbye and left. Only Ding Ming and the transit string were left in the huge noodle restaurant. The transit string seemed to sigh. Time flies. In the blink of an eye, more than 10 years have passed. When you first came to Star Rainbow, you were only a student of Star Splendor. Now it's different. You're the boss behind the scenes of Bingy Group. This was very tactful. Bingy Group was only on the surface. Ding Ming's real power was that he had already formed a force with him as the leader. No one dared to look down on this force. Ding Ming pondered and said, "Miss Ling, I think we've always been polite to each other, right?" The transit string nodded. "That's true. There were some misunderstandings in the past, but now we're even. It's just that my two sisters have always been prejudiced against you. But that's not an obstacle to our cooperation." Ding Ming couldn't help but laugh. Star Rainbow Group is a big company. You don't have to lower yourself to come to my small Bingy Group, do you? The transit string suddenly asked, "Do you know why Senior Nanshuan came to you?" This was really a shocking sentence. Ding Ming couldn't help but ask why. The transit string said, "Because you're the person who collects the most divine light energy." Ding Ming said in surprise, "Is she looking for it too?" The transit string said, "Yes. She's been traveling in outer space for the past few years. Her goal is to find the scattered locations of the divine light energy. Then, she'll send the information back to the Star Rainbow Group. Then, Our group's curved mirror teleportation array will send her to the designated coordinates. Ding Ming was even more surprised. Nanchuan is from Star Rainbow Group? No. The transit string shook her head. She once owed my father a big favor. She was in a cooperative relationship with us, but now that cooperation has ended. The transit string's juicy information was not only more shocking than the previous one, but also contained a lot of information. Ding Ming finally asked after a long time, did the cooperation end because Ling Xingqi found the divine light energy? The transit string nodded. More or less. Our cooperation with her has ended, but the search has just begun. Ding Ming was confused again. What do you mean? The transit string said, you and Senior Nin both have a deep relationship with the divine light energy. The only thing I know about you is that time on the Poison Dragon planet. You stole the energy from my elder sister and killed Senior Wu Songjin and the others, but that has nothing to do with me. Ding Ming listened quietly. Ling Xingxian continued. That's why I don't know much about your situation, but I do know a little more about Senior Nan. Senior Nan has been running around for the past decade or so, and he's found a lot of energy remnants. We're doing our best to unearth them. Ding Ming said in a deep voice. Ling Xingqi got what she wanted in the end. The transit string said, that's not important. Ding Ming was very curious. Then what's important? The transit string said, Senior Nan's search over the years has been quite difficult. At the same time, she has also concluded some of the patterns of the divine light energy. This pattern is that the divine light energy is scattered all over the main star system. Ding Ming nodded. He knew this better than the transit string. The Mao people had fled to this star system. It was not surprising that the energy was scattered all over the place. The transit string said, but is there a possibility that the energy is concentrated in one place? Ding Ming looked at her in surprise. He had to admit that this idea was really bold. Do you have any evidence? Ding Ming asked. The transit string said, about this, we'll have to start from an earlier time. Ding Ming said, please tell me. The transit string said, the Xinghong group only knew about the divine light energy more than 40 years ago. Ding Ming said, how did you find out? The transit string said, my father found out from the Federation's upper echelons through very secretive channels. Aren't you surprised? The Federation's upper echelons already knew about the divine light energy many years ago. It would be a lie to say that Ding Ming was not surprised. But from what I remember, the Federation's military did not participate. They don't seem to know about it. This is completely different from the Empire's campaign in the Fertile Chalk system. That's right. The transit string said unhurriedly. It's not that they really don't know. They're just pretending not to know. Ding Ming frowned and said, what's going on? The transit string said, my guess is that the Federation allowed us to go to outer space and mess around because they know that the things we tried our best to find are just scattered energy sources. They won't be able to do much. Ding Ming's face darkened. But the Federation already knew where the real energy source was? Correct. The transit string's eyes lit up. At the same time, I also have a bold guess. Although the Federation knows where the real energy source is, they can't enter. Or perhaps there are some obstacles or special reasons that prevent them from extracting tons of energy. They need someone to guide them. Do you understand what I mean? Ding Ming said, are you referring to the Star Wars Carnival? The transit string said, you're a smart person. You should be able to think of this. Ding Ming finally understood. The divine light singularity and the Mao Xing ruins were not as simple as finding ordinary energy sources. They both required luck and coincidence, or rather, only divine light martial artists could open them. The supercrystal on planet Poison Dragon was an example. Ling Xingqi had been there for a long time, but she could not break through the defenses set up by General Rongxing. However, Ding Ming had found a way the moment he went there. The upper echelons of the Federation obviously did not have someone like Ding Ming, but the upper echelons needed a divine light martial artist like him. However, this kind of thing could not be made public. Therefore, the best way to find someone was to go to the Star Wars Carnival. The transit string explained, the reward for a Star Wars Carnival are ridiculously high. It's comparable to the wealth of Starry Rainbow Sheng Hao. Especially for the past few years, the rewards are in the trillions. Is this reasonable? Ding Ming fell in a deep thought. From a commercial point of view, this was reasonable because the population of the Federal Empire was in the trillions. Almost every citizen had to give out one star coin to form the prize pool. However, from an official point of view, this was not reasonable. With such a large sum of money, the Federal Empire could invest it into scientific research, military, and other fields. They could easily create an iron army. Conquering the fertile chalk star system or destroying the devouring sector would be a small matter. Of all the things they could do, they just had to use it to reward individuals. It was unreasonable. The rules of the Star Wars Carnival were there. The prize pool was jointly invested by the two countries, and the contestants came from the two countries. If the Empire's experts won the championship, then wouldn't the Federation suffer a huge loss? Similarly, if the Federation's experts won the championship, then the Empire would suffer a huge loss. How could Chancellor Wen Yang and President Bai Xingfei not understand the logic behind this? It looked like the transit string's guess was undoubtedly close to the truth. Ding Ming could not help but say, "This should be the highest level and the most important secret of your Starry Rainbow Corporation, right?" The transit string stared at him quietly and said, "There's a problem with what you said. This is not my Starry Rainbow Corporation. It's the Ling family's Starry Rainbow Corporation." Ding Ming met her gaze. "But you told an outsider like me." The transit string said, "This is also a kind of investment. In other words, it's also a kind of gamble." Ding Ming said, "We didn't choose Nanshuan, but chose me. That's a little unreasonable." The transit string said calmly, "You're wrong. I chose the two of you. I'm doing it from both sides to increase the insurance factor." Ding Ming stared at her. "This time, I believe you." Chapter 9:20. The lights in the noodle shop were still on, but the noodles on the table had already turned cold. The atmosphere in the hall was unprecedentedly strange. Ding Ming suddenly changed his words. "I know you've looked for Lil Bing before." "Yes." The transit string did not deny it. Ding Ming said, "I'm really curious. How did you manage to survive until now?" This time, Ling Xingxian did not answer directly. Instead, she slowly said, "My mother is from a prestigious family. At the same time, she is also a business genius. She once ran a profitable trading company. As for the name, there is no need for me to mention it. That company has a bright future and is also developing energy." Ding Ming said, "I can tell that they were very wealthy." The transit string said, "But it's not easy to become a first-rate corporation. There are at least two conditions required. Let's talk about the first one. At the very least, they need to have a decent project." Ding Ming said, "What about the other one?" The transit string said, "They need the support of political resources from the upper echelons." Ding Ming nodded. He could understand this logic now. The transit string said, "My mother once worked with the Starbao Corporation. That was the only time, and also the last time. That was half a century ago. After that, she died." Ding Ming said, "I'm afraid the cause of her death is not simple. Am I right?" The transit string said, "She became my father's fifth wife and gave birth to me. Her company was merged into the Starbao Corporation, and then she fell ill and passed away." Ding Ming said, "She was killed." The transit string said expressionlessly, "It's nice talking to you, because you can guess it just by mentioning it a little." Ding Ming said, "I understand." The transit string suddenly changed her words. "The significance of this Star Wars Carnival is different. It's the 10th Storm Gathering. According to the information I received, many of the contestants' goals are not just to enter the final stage. I'm guessing that the Bing Corporation also wants to push you into the upper echelons of the Federation." "Why do you think so?" Ding Ming asked calmly. The transit string said, "Don't forget what I saw and heard in the Norse Empire last time. I'm guessing that you have a lot of enemies in the open and in the dark. Any one of them won't be easy to deal with. I won't talk about the distant ones, but that big sister of mine is not someone you can easily deal with." Ding Ming said thoughtfully, "Looks like Ling Xingqi didn't reveal the divine light energy on purpose at the Fengyan gathering. She was sending a signal to the higher-ups." The transit string said, the Ling family has always wanted to obtain the real divine light energy, not just a little bit of it. Ding Meng said, your father and eldest sister are both ambitious. The transit string said, but I'm not that ambitious. Ding Meng didn't believe her words. She was probably the most ambitious person in the Ling family. Ding Meng said, Miss Ling, this isn't the first time we've met, but this time, it's really a big deal. You know that I have a lot of enemies, and every one of them is an important figure. By telling me this, you're getting yourself involved in this mess. The transit string smiled. Now, anyone who knows a little bit is fighting to jump into this mess. I'm not that stupid. The reason is very simple. I know when to advance and when to retreat. Ding Meng finally looked at her seriously. What do I get out of this? The transit string said, you get a lot of benefits. I don't think I need to explain too much about the divine light energy. This is what most warriors are after. If you really get meat to eat, do you think I'm afraid I won't get soup to drink? Ding Meng looked at her. Aren't you afraid that I'll take it all for myself? Back on planet Poison Dragon, I was the one who took the energy crystal. The transit string looked at him with a smile that wasn't a smile. Did you take it all for yourself? After you took the crystal, the people around you improved by leaps and bounds. Lan Bing, Dai Yi, Lu Qing, Meng Yin, and Su Xia all became battle saints in just a few years. If you want to take it all for yourself, you'll have to rely on others. But I'm not Ling Xingqi, and Ling Xingqi isn't me. This was really a very clever speech. Even Ding Meng couldn't refute it. The transit string continued. This matter is indeed risky for you and me, but the benefits far outweigh the risks. Moreover, the Bingy group has my support, so the situation is different. There are only benefits and no harm. Ding Meng nodded. That's true. The transit string said, there's one more thing you shouldn't forget. Once your Bingy group grows, you'll have to face Sheng Hao group's knife. Ding Meng said, are you referring to Lil Bing's matter? The transit string said, you offended Yuanjia so badly on Thousand Sails Planet. Sheng Hao Group will definitely not let you off. You'll have to pay extra attention to the 28th seed, Ouyangwang. Ding Meng sighed. Thank you for telling me. The transit string said, President Lan and I have a good personal relationship. Sometimes, women can relate to each other. If you don't think the cooperation is credible, I can ask my father to let me marry you and hold the wedding of the century. Bingy and Star Rainbow Pearl together will undoubtedly be safer. However, you have so many beauties around you that I don't think you'll be interested in me. Ding Meng nodded. I can see that you're sincere. However, I'm curious. If I get so many benefits for free, what about you? What benefits do you have? The transit string said calmly. It's very simple. I want to take back everything that I should have received with interest. Moreover, I want a high interest rate. Ding Meng said, I understand. The transit string said, what's your opinion on this? Ding Meng replied calmly, I agree. The transit string was surprised. You agreed without thinking? Ding Meng stared at her. I agreed not because of you, but because Miss Su gave me the pass to Star Rainbow Group in outer space. Otherwise, I would still be a refugee. Ling Xingxian was silent for a moment before he said, I understand as well. Ding Meng said, where's Miss Su now? I haven't paid attention to her for a long time. The transit string had obviously done her homework. Back then, you left her in Flying Star City. Later, she followed Yao Manru to the refugee camp. After that, she went into exile to the Cambrian department. Now, she's a receptionist in a small company. Life is very difficult for her. Ding Meng said, I still owe Miss Su a debt of gratitude. At least, she was on my side when it came to Dai Yi. The transit string said, don't worry. Since Star Rainbow Group can make her a star, I can also make her a star again. And she will be even more famous than before. Ding Meng said, I'm guessing that with your style, you've already prepared for this. The transit string smiled. I also plan to let Li Yu and Mr. Coddle work in your Bingy group. In addition, I will personally invest 400 billion yuan in you. Xiaoyan will discuss the details with President Lan. Ding Meng could only sigh in admiration. When working with the transit string, she would at least make you feel comfortable on the surface. However, it was hard to say what she would do in private. By the way, that Haodong, his background is not simple, right? Ding Ming suddenly brought up this question. The transit string nodded and said, Haoran is his father. He is also a 5-star general in the Federation military. If there are no accidents, if I don't marry you, I will marry him. He has been pursuing me for a long time. Ding Ming said, Then let me congratulate you in advance. The transit string waved her hand and said, No need. What if I become a widow? Ding Ming didn't know how to respond. The transit string was the most unique among all the women he had met, because she always did what she said she would. The transit string finally stood up. Do you mind if I visit your site? I am an investor after all. Ding Ming also stood up. Welcome. After coming out of the business district, Ding Ming didn't accompany the transit string. It was better for the women to receive visitors themselves. Therefore, the person accompanying them was the CEO, Liang Aran. Liang Aran was the apple of the Red Moon Group's eye and the daughter-in-law of the Du family. Her identity was worthy of the transit string. Ding Ming also didn't go to the headquarters building. Instead, he went to the riverside in the suburbs. At this moment, Ji Chenxue and Nanxuan were watching the night scene by the riverside. Everyone, stand up and welcome the crazy boss, Nanxuan said with a smile. Ding Ming's eyelids drooped. Senior, why did you copy what my fans do in a live broadcast room? Nanxuan smiled and said, Because I also watch your live broadcast after the game. Ding Ming was speechless. You really have nothing better to do. Ji Chenxue said sweetly, Ding Ming, we were talking about the divine light energy. Sister Sun also told me a lot. Ding Ming said, Senior probably knows more than I do. Nanxuan smiled and said, No need to call me Senior. If the crazy boss doesn't mind, you can also copy my live broadcast room and call me Sister Xian. It's the same. Sister Xian? Ding Ming tried hard not to laugh. Does he really think he's a god? Nanxuan smiled and said, I have been to the Verdant Wood Galaxy and the God Wars Galaxy. Your name is very famous there. I also went to the Rainbow Galaxy that time. Ding Ming was shocked. Oh, why didn't I notice? Nanxuan said, You were one step ahead of me. That's why I went to the Poison Dragon planet in the Fertile Chalk Galaxy. In the end, you were one step ahead of me and got the energy before Ling Xingqi. Ding Ming pondered and said, If I may ask, Sister Xian, have you also come into contact with the divine light energy? Nanxuan smiled. I know what you want to ask. I have come into contact with many of the Mao Star ruins, but I'm not a divine light martial artist or a demon's martial artist. The fact that she could say these words proved that she knew a lot. Why? Ding Ming still did not understand. Nanxuan was a master. No master would not be tempted by a new energy source. Nanxuan smiled and said, It is not bad to become a divine light martial artist, but it only increases one's martial power and sacrifices other interests. For example, divine light martial artists like you and Chen Shui face endless trouble every day. I'm different. I have a happier life. Everywhere I go, people welcome me. I can even play for free. Why not? Ding Ming could not help but smile. She did not look like a master at all. She was clearly a carefree girl. But then again, he admired Nanxuan for this. At least Nanxuan's mentality was better. She saw many things clearly. Right, Sister Xian, this is not your real face, right? Nanxuan smiled and said, Smart. Ding Ming said, How did you do it? Nanxuan said, I cultivate the evergreen illusion spirit art. You should have this secret manual as well. It is a martial art technique of the green tree race. Ding Ming was surprised. The ultimate technique of the green tree race requires the support of telekinesis. I can feel that you do not cultivate telekinesis. Nanxuan's lips curled up. Who told you that I do not have telekinesis? Ding Ming was stunned. Chapter 921. Forgive me for my ignorance, but I really couldn't tell that you cultivated telekinesis. Ding Ming humbly asked for guidance. At this moment, the night was beautiful, and insects were softly chirping. Nanxuan stood up from the bench and slowly walked to the Bluestone Road. She raised her head and looked at a street lamp beside her. The lamp was a light source emitted by a miniature crystal panel. However, under Nanxuan's gaze, the crystal panel went out with a hiss. Ding Ming and Ji Chenxue both frowned. This ability was something that most origin ability users could do. As if she knew their doubts, Nanxuan smiled gently. She stretched out her slender finger and lightly drew a half arc in front of her. Immediately, a small mass of air was pulled out. Ding Ming hesitated. "This is..." Nan Sun nodded and turned to face the river beneath her feet. Suddenly, water vapor began to evaporate from the surface of the river. Then, the water rose on its own and arrived in front of her. The water seemed to be controlled by her will. It changed shape at will and did not dissipate. Ding Ming was shocked. Transformation ability? Nanxuan smiled and nodded. "Crazy boss, your eyesight is indeed not bad." Ding Ming looked at her in shock. Only he knew how terrifying telekinesis was. In Ling Tian King's imprint, Ding Ming had seen a description of transformation telekinesis. This was a unique type of telekinesis. It could change the nature and shape of the target, and thus obtain the target's attributes. This type of telekinesis was soft and flexible. The only drawback was that it could not transform living things. In layman's terms, the transformational telekinesis was a very powerful energy converter. It could convert air into electricity, water into fire, and freeze origin flames into ice. It could convert any material into a tool or machine unit. This conversion was all-encompassing and omnipotent. It was an extremely rare, god-level telekinesis in the universe. It was recorded in the imprint that Ling Tianjun had encountered such an expert when he was young. The other party was very difficult to deal with. The only way to deal with them was to use an overwhelming amount of energy to exceed the carrying capacity of the other party's telekinesis. To put it bluntly, it was to make the opponent explode. Otherwise, there was almost no chance of winning against a shape-shifting warlock of the same level. It was no wonder that Nanxuan did not become a divine light martial artist. Nanxuan looked down on him because he had mastered a more powerful psychic power. Amazing! Ding Ming was sincerely impressed, but he was not envious. He knew that this kind of thing could not be envied. Fortunately, Nanxuan had already taken the initiative to explain, "I once rescued a special alien life form in outer space and unintentionally awakened this psychic ability. It can be considered fate." Ji Chenxue couldn't help but ask, "If that's the case, Sister Sun, Lei Jingtian should have given up his position for this storm gathering, right? It's not as simple as you think. Telekinesis and origin energy complement each other. Just because you're good at it doesn't mean you'll win. In the end, a martial artist's overall strength determines everything," Nanxuan explained patiently. Ding Ming also expressed his agreement. Overall strength was the way to go. Nanxuan sighed slightly. Lei Jingtian is really strong. Up until now, no one has dared to say that they have absolute confidence in defeating him. Don't you think so, crazy maniac boss? Ding Ming sighed. "I haven't fought with him before, so I don't know how strong he is." Nanxuan said, "You fought with Ling Xingqi before, right? But that was many years ago. At that time, Ling Xingqi had yet to obtain the divine light energy. If I were to compare, Ling Xingqi would be defeated after 3 moves at most." Ding Ming and Ji Chenxue were both shocked. "He's really that strong?" Nanxuan nodded. "It's true. Last time, Lei Jingtian didn't use this ID, and I had to withdraw midway. This time, Xingxian told me that Lei Jingtian's ID had appeared again. I don't think anyone would dare to impersonate him, so I came as well." Ding Ming sighed. He really is one of the favorites to win the championship. Nanxuan's eyes flashed. "But I also have high hopes for Crazy Maniac Boss." Ding Ming's eyelids drooped. "What kind of boss am I?" Nanxuan laughed again. "In my opinion, a person who can treat others to a meal, a free tour, and a free trip is a boss." Ding Ming couldn't help but laugh. "You're making me crazy." Nanxuan blinked and laughed. "How about I stay here for a while?" Ding Ming said, "Of course you're welcome. I didn't think that my little place would be favored by 2 goddesses of the Federal Empire. It's truly an honor." Nanxuan laughed again. If Crazy Maniac Boss wants to see my true face, I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you. Ding Ming said, "Oh." Nanchuan stopped smiling. "Chinxue and I are like sisters." She also told me about what happened in the Empire. When Yang is getting more and more out of hand, I feel like I need to remind him. Ding Ming thought that this was a good thing. Ji Chinchue's strength wasn't bad, and he also had the help of a god like Nanchuan. It couldn't be better for them to take care of the matters in the Empire. What he needed to do next was to focus on the Fengyan Convention. He also wanted to meet those legendary experts. On the 8th day of the carnival, the Pinnacle Showdown was held as scheduled. All the contestants were teleported to the Holy War Temple in Star Wars City. This was actually a large stadium suspended in the sky. It was similar to a football field and could hold 120,000 spectators. Of course, these 120,000 spectators weren't ordinary spectators. They were the rich and powerful who had paid a high price to enter. However, the fans had already told Ding Ming that this Lei Jingtian didn't look like this in the past. It was probably just a virtual face. It didn't matter whether it was virtual or not. Everyone just needed to know that this was Lei Jingtian. The lot drawing ceremony proceeded very quickly. The names of the other 3 contestants of the 30-second group were quickly revealed. Moisturizer, Harley Touch, and Crazy Scooter. Damn, our group's IDs are really awesome. They're all scooters. And they're all branded goods. Moisturizer, haha. Crazy Scooter? How crazy is that? Boss, beat him up. While the fans were still discussing, Ding Ming had already seen the rules. The first round of the group stage wasn't a one-on-one battle. It was a 4-person battle. In other words, all 4 of them would be placed on the same map. Those who were observant could immediately see that this was obviously a deliberate move by the officials. The competition was very likely to evolve into a 3v1. The 3 unseeded contestants would team up to deal with the seeded contestant. It seemed unfair, but it was actually very fair. This was because the seeded contestants didn't need to draw lots. Since they had the upper hand, they had to pay the price. In this way, the chances of an upset were very high. If they defeated a seeded contestant, they would directly gain fame and fortune. Of course, if the seeded contestant succeeded in defeating all 3 of them, there would be no need for the rest of the competition to continue. The seeded contestant would directly advance to the top 64. This rule was relatively fair. Head of State Wen Yang announced loudly, "For the first opening match of the Summit Showdown, please welcome the contestants of the 30-second group onto the stage." As soon as he finished speaking, 4 white lights rose from the stage. Ding Ming and the other 3 were teleported to the special map. After the white lights flashed, Ding Ming didn't even have time to look at the map before the system's voice sounded first. "Warning, warning, this ship is under heavy fire. It is estimated that it will crash on the planet ahead in 20 minutes. Please conduct emergency repairs. Please conduct emergency repairs." What the F***CK was going on? Ding Ming found himself in the main passage of a starship. Red warning lights were flashing all around him. There seemed to be rumbling explosions in the distance, and the ground was trembling slightly. Ding Ming quickly expanded his telekinetic vision. He found that the command center was right in front of the main passage. Without saying anything, he rushed in. There had to be a reason why the map was the interior of a starship. His past experience told him that it was better to figure out the situation first. Chapter 922. There was no one in the command hall, and all the control panels were operating normally. Only the red warning light was flashing rapidly. Ding Ming rushed to the main control panel and understood what was going on. This was a Falcon Dragon starship. It was unknown what had attacked it, but the main engine at the rear of the starship had completely failed. The engine accelerator at the flank was on fire, and the damage to the entire starship was more than 30%. This was still within a manageable range, but in front of them was a huge yellowish-brown star. The starship was slowly falling into the atmosphere with a countdown of 20 minutes. Ding Ming immediately reacted. If the starship was allowed to fall, all the contestants would be wiped out in 20 minutes, and the match would end in a draw. This was quite disadvantageous for a seated contestant like him. Ding Ming operated the main control panel, and a crystal panel popped out. There were obviously repair instructions on it, but when he pressed his hand on it, he knew it was bad. A progress bar popped up on the panel. The repair was progressing slowly, at about 0.92% per second. After careful calculation, the repair would be completed in about 18 minutes, and the starship would return to normal. This was the problem. As soon as Ding Ming's hand left the panel, the progress bar would immediately return to 0. The repair would start as soon as he pressed it. In other words, Ding Ming had to stand by the main control panel and maintain his posture. Once he left, all his previous efforts would be wasted. The fans also understood this rule. F*CK. The map designer is really F*ket. What's the point of playing like this? It's so unfair. We can't even move. Boss's strength has been greatly reduced. Where are the other 3 guys? If they come to the command hall and cause trouble, it'll be over. They're definitely on the starship, but I don't know where. It's best if they don't appear. You jinx. They'll appear when you say they won't appear. There were main roads in the command hall that led to the north, south, east, and west. Moisturizer appeared at the north entrance. This guy was wearing the Tyrol battle armor and wielded a blue energy sword. Judging by his aura, he should be an ice-type battle saint. Harley Touch appeared at the east entrance. He was a big man with an imposing appearance. His eyes were bright, and the aura he exuded was pure thermodynamic. The crazy electric scooter was the last to appear at the western entrance. This guy looked quite young, but his eyes were constantly rolling around. His aura wasn't weak either, and he cultivated both body toughness and gravity origin energy. The 3 of them clearly understood the current situation of the starship. The 3 of them were not in a hurry to make a move. Instead, they stared at Ding Ming. Under normal circumstances, 30 battle saints Ding Ming would not be a problem for him. He definitely has something up his sleeve. Moisturizing Jia and Harley nodded at the same time. If Ding Ming dared to say it so openly, then he definitely had something up his sleeve. Huh, Ding Ming laughed. See, I knew you guys wouldn't attack. The more relaxed he appeared, the more suspicious the 3 of them became. Moisturizing Jia raised her energy sword and carefully took 2 steps forward. Ding Ming decisively turned his head and shouted, "Stop!" Moisturizing Jia was shocked. "What?" Ding Ming said earnestly. "Brother Sure, the 2 of them are waiting for you to make a move." Moisturizing Jia stared at him coldly. "What do you mean?" Ding Ming sighed. "Of the 4 of us, you're definitely the weakest, right?" Moisturizing Jia couldn't deny this point. The fact that he had appeared here with his armor was already proof enough. If you were really strong, why would you need armor? So what if I am? Moisturizing Jia remained on high alert. Ding Ming said, "Why don't you think about it? If I get blasted away later, there'll still be more than 10 minutes before the starship lands. Aren't the 3 of you going to compete for the rankings?" These words really struck a chord with the 3 of them. Anyway, Mad Bike was destined to fail. The 3 of them would definitely have to fight. Then, who would be the first unlucky one? At this moment, countless fans could feel Moisturizing Jia's face turning pale, even through the mask. Not only was he the weakest, but he was also an ice element origin ability user. He hated being close to others. However, looking at Harley Tuchuo and Mad Bike, they were obviously masters of close combat. Once Ding Ming was blasted away, he would definitely be the first unlucky one. Moisturizing Jia slowly retreated, but she still maintained a highly alert posture. Originally, the fans were still nervous. However, they never expected that Ding Ming would be able to persuade them to back down with just a few words. Lan Bing, who was in front of the screen, was also smiling. She knew Ding Ming's ability in this aspect the most. Ding Ming's greatest strength wasn't his strength, but his ability to adapt to various complicated situations. This was Ding Ming's true strength. However, there were still changes. Harley Tuchuo said in a deep voice, "Brothers, don't listen to this kid's nonsense. The progress bar is already 30%. If we delay any longer, it won't be good for us." Let's go. He was the first to make a move. He raised his hand and threw a punch across the air. This punch actually betrayed him because he didn't rush forward. What he threw was a huge fiery red fist mirror image. This was obviously a test of Ding Meng's strength. However, this fist mirror image was still very powerful. As soon as it appeared, it rolled up the steel plates on the floor. If Ding Meng didn't dodge, he would at least be hit hard. Ding Meng really couldn't dodge. His gaze turned cold, and a large number of telekinesis strings were released invisibly, building a telekinesis wall halfway. The whirlpool-like fist hit the telekinesis wall, but it actually changed direction, and a large piece of steel rolled towards Moisturizer. Moisturizing Jia obviously didn't expect this move. She hurriedly raised her sword to block. The steel plates in the command center flew everywhere, and a lot of equipment was shattered. Ding Meng laughed again. Brother, look, I'm not lying. He didn't even think about attacking me. The first person they want to kill is you. They want to get the points first. Moisturizing Jia was convinced. She was furious. F***CKU, you despicable bastard. I'll kill you first. The Tyrell armor swung its sword backward. A snow-white stream of ice surged out and headed straight for the East Passage. Harley's expression changed. You idiot, you've been tricked. He couldn't finish his sentence. The stream of ice was too strong, and he had to block it. Seeing that the two of them had started fighting, Crazy Electric Scooter waved his hand silently. A murderous war hammer appeared in his hand. His little movements couldn't escape Ding Meng's eyes. Ding Meng hooked his finger at him. Come on, come on, come on. Crazy Electric Scooter threw the war hammer with one hand. It flew towards the center like a cannonball. This guy was pretty smart. The war hammer didn't hit the person, but the power switch on the side of the control panel. He had a good idea. I'll cut off your power. Let's see how you'll fix it. The war hammer was naturally diverted by Ding Meng's telekinetic wall. It whistled and swung towards Moisturizing Jia. Moisturizing Jia was in the middle of a heated battle with Harley. She couldn't afford to be distracted. The back of the Tyrell armor was unexpectedly hit by the hammer. Moisturizing Jia's body tilted, and she stumbled into a work area. Wherever she hit, the control panels along the way exploded into pieces. Crazy Electric Scooter didn't stop with a casual swing of the war hammer. As the war hammer flew out, he flew up and clasped his palms together in the air. Many walls of holy light appeared around Ding Meng. His goal was simple. Crazy Electric Scooter, don't even think about escaping. Then, Crazy Electric Scooter suddenly turned into a golden stream of light and arrived at Ding Meng's left wing in the blink of an eye. This was the standard flying stars chasing moon martial art technique. It was at a very high level. With a whoosh, Crazy Electric Scooter swept his leg through the air. His leg was still halfway there. The steel plates on the ground were crushed into powder by his powerful energy waves. This wasn't like Harley, who was holding back. This kick was truly powerful. The fan's breathing stopped. How was Crazy Electric Scooter going to deal with this? Was he going to be blasted away? How was he going to defend himself this time? Boom! The screen was completely white. There was a blinding light, and the sound of an explosion could be clearly heard. No one outside the map knew what had happened. Soon, everyone knew what had happened. After the white light disappeared, a blue spherical shield wrapped around the control panel tightly, with Ding Meng as the center. It seemed that the shield had just blocked 2 waves of powerful attacks. No! In another VIP room, someone immediately raised a different opinion. This person was Star Rainbow's Lung Yechio. Dong Ihan frowned. Why? Lung Yechio explained, his shield is blue. This kind of color can't block the radiant golden dragon claw and the origin steel shield. Ling Xingqi quietly watched the screen. Who is this mad scooter? Have we checked? Lung Yechio said, we've checked all the seated contestants. Only a small number of them can be found. He's one of them. Ling Xingqi said calmly, it doesn't matter. As long as he can advance from the group stage, the intensity of the competition will increase. We'll know who he is sooner or later. Lung Yechio's judgment was not wrong. Relying on a shield alone would not be enough to block it. In that instant, Ding Ming once again extended his hand and snapped his fingers even louder. This was actually the Overlord's mountain-crumbling energy. Although it was not as violent as a full-body tremble, this amount of strength was enough. At this moment, Crazy Scooter and Harley Tuchuo had already been knocked to the ground. Blood flowed from the corners of their mouths, and their eyes were filled with shock. Damn, wasn't Group 32 the weakest? Even the weakest seeded contestant was this strong? What they didn't know was that this number 32 seeded contestant was one of the strongest contestants in this year's Storm Gathering. They were very unlucky to have met him. The progress bar had already broken through 80%. There were at most 2 minutes left before the starship was repaired. The competition would be over. Slago, you're the only one who hasn't been injured yet. Harley Grotto yelled at the stunned Moisturizer Jia. Moisturizer Jia didn't dare to attack. He didn't see the big explosion just now, but his senses wouldn't lie. At that moment, he immediately felt an extremely powerful energy wave explode from the center of the main control console. If it weren't for the armor protecting him, he would have been knocked unconscious by Ding Ming. Slag your grandpa. Moisturizer Jia raised her hand and slapped out. A purple icicle appeared in the hall and flew mercilessly towards Harley Grotto. Harley Grotto immediately panicked. He didn't care about his injuries and raised his hand to summon a sea of fire. This was the standard Holy Flame formation. Everyone's vision flashed with a strong light, and the sound of the explosion was deafening. After the explosion passed, the system finally sounded. Starship repair complete. System charging. This sound meant that the starship wouldn't crash. The main control console showed that the starship had changed course and continued to fly into the vast expanse of space. The system's caption finally appeared. Mad Scooter wins. The live stream immediately cheered. Boss, 666. That was easy. Those 3 idiots have been killing each other all this time. Hello everyone, I'm Rennie Hong. I now officially announce that I'm a fan of Boss. F***CK off. Where did this fake come from? Idiot. Can't you act more realistically if you're pretending? I'm really Rennie Hong. Hee. I'm still that idiot who voluntarily surrendered. Boss, what's that Old Zhang's eel advertisement? Old Zhang's eel noodles. It's a delicacy from Blue Pole Star City. It's very delicious. I'm from Blue Pole Star City, so I eat it often. 66666. Ding Ming's victory in this match basically announced that he was the first to advance from Group 32. This opening match was very exciting for many spectators. Everyone had seen how a battle sage fought, but the seeded contestants directly increased their attention to Ding Ming because Ding Ming's finger snap was the most exciting part of the match. However, only a very small number of people understood the essence of this battle. Mad Scooter's truly commendable part wasn't his finger snap, but his grasp of the psychology of others. The words he said before the battle could be used as an actual combat textbook for Origin ability users. It taught you how to use the correct strategy in a difficult situation. Ding Ming's strength was certainly extraordinary, but moisturizing Jia, Harley Tutu, and Mad Scooter weren't bad either. When the 3 of them were in their best condition, it wasn't impossible for them to launch a joint attack. At the very least, they had a chance to shake off Ding Ming. As long as Ding Ming let go, Ding Ming wouldn't be able to win in the end, but Ding Ming definitely wouldn't be the winner. This reflected the saying, "Sai, you've missed the best opportunity to attack. There's no chance left." This sentence was said by Ding Ming. When he said this sentence, the result of this battle was already decided. The only winner could only be him. At this moment, Ding Ming had already returned to the stadium. Bingy Group had also obtained a VIP room at the venue. This was what the transit string had fought for Lanbing. In the room, only Ding Ming was sitting on the sofa, watching the match. The second match was for Group 10. This group consisted of seeded contestants, and coincidentally, Lu Qing was also in this group. Ding Ming glanced at the screen. This match couldn't possibly be a 3v1 situation because both Dai, Yi, and Lu Qing had the prefix Bing Yi. It was obviously a 2v2. There wasn't much suspense. Dai Yi and Lu Qing would advance together. Ding Ming was now more concerned about his popularity. However, after the previous match, he realized that his popularity didn't increase by much. His current popularity was 43 million. It seemed that he still needed to defeat a contestant with high popularity to increase his popularity. Chapter 924. The group stage progressed very quickly. In just 6 hours, the list of the top 128 contestants was decided. The reason was simple. In many maps, the seeded contestants were able to advance by fighting 1 against 3. In particular, the performances of several contestants could be said to be classic. Lei Jingtian, Jun Ling, Eisendale, and Ling Xingqi were all killed in one move. Their popularity also skyrocketed. Number 10, Apocalypse by Yu, 360 million points. Number 09, Bing Yi, Lu Qing, 370 million points. Number 08, Dream of Immortal Travel, 380 million points. Number 07, Long Fei Yang, 400 million points. Number 06, Bing Yi Dai Yi, 620 million points. Number 05, Rainbow, Eisendale, 650 million points. Number 04, Beidou Jichenyu, 690 million points. Number 03, Kneel Before Me, 700 million points. Number 02, Xing Hong, Ling Xingqi, 900 million points. Number 01, Lei Jingtian won, 2 billion points. Ding Ming's eyelids drooped. The 10th contestant had 360 million points. It was really embarrassing that he hadn't broken through 50 million points yet. Dai Yi and Lu Qing looked at each other and smiled. They knew that Ding Ming didn't have enough exposure and couldn't increase his popularity. It's mainly because you haven't met any strong opponents, so it's normal for your popularity to be low. Dai Yi comforted him. Lu Qing explained, the next round is the top 64. If you meet a seeded contestant, it'll be different. As soon as she said that, the screen in the center of the stage lit up with the words for the next round. Crazy Explosion vs. Agile. Agile? Dai Yi frowned. I've seen this person before in Extreme Speed Advance. She's an Ice-type Origin ability user. I remember now. She's the 22nd seeded contestant. Ding Ming opened the system panel. The information for Agile was also empty. It only showed that she had 68 million points of popularity. In this situation, either she wasn't famous or she was low-key like Ding Ming. However, as a seeded contestant, Ding Ming definitely wouldn't underestimate her. The white light of teleportation quickly rose. The live broadcast room immediately became lively again. Boss is here. Boss is here. Boss, I just ate a bowl of noodles that you endorsed. The taste was invincible. Look at your taste. I just bought a set of Beautiful Shadow endorsed by Boss. There's so many styles. The girl above? Private chat. Idiot, she's a transvestite. She was just exposed. F***CK. How do you differentiate between the genders? I don't see such a function. Let's not talk about it. 233,333. Ding Ming did not have time to interact with his fans as he was observing the map. He now had a certain level of understanding of the map designer's thinking. Every match's map was different, and it would be based on the evaluation of the strength of the players on paper, so that both sides could make use of their strengths as much as possible. At this moment, the map was dark, surrounded by a vast wilderness. It looked like a barren, rocky mountain terrain. In the middle of the wilderness was a huge mountain range. This mountain range was not high, and the slope was relatively gentle. However, at the peak of the mountain range, there was a towering mountain. The two players were standing on the flat ground of this mountain. As far as the eye could see, the wilderness was vast and empty. It gave people the feeling that they were in some unknown corner of the world. Ding Ming felt that the scene in front of him was somewhat familiar. The opponent called Ling Min had also appeared. She had a pretty face, long hair, and was dressed in a robe similar to the one in Dream Return. However, it was not white, but black. Under the dark night, it looked even more strange. However, her expression was arrogant, and her temperament was dignified. Presumably, her real identity was a big shot who gave orders. The distance between the two of them was still quite far, roughly 400 meters away. Ding-Ming immediately understood this point. The other party was an ice element origin ability user, so the teleportation point wouldn't teleport them too close to each other. Lingmin obviously did not take Ding-Ming seriously. She glanced at him contemptuously. Not bad. Ding-Ming smiled. You're not bad either. He had already sensed that this Ling Min was a pure ice element origin ability user. At this moment, the night sky began to drizzle. It was the kind of bone-chilling drizzle. It was obvious that the map favored Ling Min. Come, I'll give you a chance. Ling Min said indifferently. Ding Ming frowned. Where did you get the confidence to give me a chance? Even though he said this, Ding Ming still slowly walked forward. He stopped 100 meters away from Ling Min, looking at Ling Min's expression. It seemed that she had no intention of making the first move. Since you're not going to make a move, I'll test your limits. Ding Ming suddenly swept out with his foot, and a saber-shaped origin energy mirror image immediately shot out from the bottom of his shoe. This was not an external release of origin energy, but rather the blazing sun battle mark. Ding Ming's blazing sun battle mark was much more advanced than Crazy Scooter's martial arts. It looked like a saber, but in reality, it burst forth with a dazzling bluish-purple origin energy as it flew through the air. Under the cold rain in the dark night, it looked like a halo of fog. Even someone who didn't know much about it could tell that it was no small matter. The fans immediately quieted down. They saw Ling Min stretch out two slender fingers and casually clamp down on the saber. Then, the saber vaporized. Ding Ming was a little surprised. Ling Min wasn't weak at all. Ling Min sneered. If you think that you can beat me with this little bit of energy, then you're wrong. Suddenly, Ding Ming felt a bone-deep chill. The temperature of the air around him was rapidly dropping. The raindrops drifting down from the night sky hit his face like needles. Not good. This was the frigid winter ice dust storm. Ding Ming reacted. Ling Min had asked him to come closer so that he would enter her attack range. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The originally dense cold rain was now changing like the waves of the sea. With a wave of her hand, large patches of raindrops turned into snow particles. Under the control of her hand gestures, the snow particles formed a soft and tough snow-white curtain of ice, encircling them from all directions. Ding Ming didn't move. This level of coverage was even more exaggerated than the wall of holy brilliance. There was no way he could dodge. Pung, pung. One after another, the ice curtains swept across Ding Ming's body. In the eyes of the audience, it was like a white and soft veil covering his body. However, in the eyes of the experts, this was an extremely cold ice energy being injected into Ding Ming's body. Liang Iran, who was in front of the screen, was speechless. I know that Ding Ming can take it, but what's the meaning of not fighting back after taking 12 ice curtains? Lan Bing said in a low voice. He must have his reasons. Ling Min waved her hand for a while and finally stopped. Ding Ming's body was already covered in a layer of ice. Oh no, boss won't freeze to death, right? The fans were discussing. Ding Ming definitely wouldn't be frozen to death by such a small trick. He secretly activated his first 3 origin points, and the ice on his body gradually dissipated into white gas. This time, it was Ling Min's turn to be surprised. This crazy man wasn't a battle saint, but a battle god. Interesting. Ling Min smiled softly. Come on, I'll give you a chance to. Ding Ming said expressionlessly. Show me what you've got. How dare you? Ling Min's expression turned cold. How dare you speak so rudely in front of me? Ding Ming sneered disdainfully. What's there to be afraid of? With this level of skill, I can't even be bothered to come over and beat you up. Ling Min didn't say anything. It could be seen that she was angry. At this moment, a magnificent scene appeared. A layer of light blue waves appeared on the ground. The waves surged and rolled, and the ground was frozen with a kacha-kacha sound. The ice layer was spreading at a speed visible to the naked eye. Not only was the top of the mountain frozen, but the entire mountain was frozen. The huge mountain range turned into a snow-white iceberg in just 15 seconds. Seeing this scene, Lan Bing was so shocked that she immediately stood up from her chair. Liang Yaran was curious. What's going on? Lan Bing stared at the screen. Her name isn't Ling Min. Liang Yaran was even more curious. You know her? Lan Bing nodded affirmatively. Her name is Fong Lin. She's an expert from the Starbao group. Back on Thousand Sail Star, the scene in front of her was exactly the same as it was now. Fong Lin's art of freezing hell had left a deep impression on Lan Bing. Because she was an Ice-type origin ability user, she knew how powerful this technique was. It was no wonder that Ding Meng felt this place was familiar as soon as he entered the map. This was clearly the border of the devouring world. The Ling Min in front of him was the arrogant Fong Lin from back then. No one else could use this technique. Just like before, the top of the mountain had turned into a mountain of ice. The surrounding ground was completely frozen, and the snow particles in the air were condensed. Even the wind was frozen. This was a dead world. Fong Lin spread out her hands and kept changing her hand gestures. Large amounts of white mist and ice energy kept pouring down from the night sky. It was as if transparent streams of water had formed a sphere on the ground. This sphere just happened to completely trap Ding Meng. The fans hadn't experienced that battle. When they saw this scene, they couldn't help but gasp in amazement. My God, I finally saw a real expert today. Hey, F*CK. F*CK, I want to go home. This is 2F*King Scary. Her ice-type origin energy has been cultivated to this level. Boss, 23,333. Fong Lin opened her palms and slowly closed them again. The surface of the ice sphere emitted a 7-colored light, and its size was slowly shrinking. It was no different from the process of the previous battle. She wanted to squeeze Ding Meng to death. Suddenly, her hand bounced back as if it had been electrocuted. She didn't seem to have complete control of the ice energy. Instead, she held a cactus. At this time, she finally showed a look of horror. Ding Meng was standing there perfectly fine. There was no ice layer on his body, nor was there any heat source flame. This ice formation couldn't do anything to him. In the VIP room, Lung Yeqiu and the others stood up in shock. This is impossible. No one can break Aunt Fong's art of freezing hell. Ling Xingqi was very calm. Someone can break it. Who? Lung Yeqiu and Dong Yihan asked at the same time. Ling Xingqi turned to look at the sofa behind her. You should explain it to them. Sitting on the sofa was a well-dressed and pampered woman. This person was Ling Xingwen. Her face was very gloomy. Someone has indeed broken Aunt Fong's art of freezing hell. Who is he? Lung Yeqiu couldn't help but ask. Ling Xingwen gritted her teeth. Ding Meng. Hiss. Lung Yeqiu and Dong Yihan sucked in a cold breath at the same time. In their circle, Ding Meng's name was simply too resounding. She was a rising star who was like the sun in the sky, and also the sworn enemy of the Starbao Corporation. If this crazy explosion is really Ding Meng, then Aunt Fong is in big trouble this time. Lung Yeqiu analyzed. No, Ling Xingwen decisively rejected. Even if this crazy explosion is really Ding Meng, the person who will fall this time will be him. Chapter 925. At the peak of the ice mountain, Fong Lin looked shocked, but she did not panic. She stared at Ding Meng and asked, Who are you? This was the Fengyan competition, and there were hundreds of millions of eyes watching the live broadcast. Ding Meng would definitely not answer a question. Fong Lin waved her hand again. This time, it was Ding Meng's turn to be shocked. Fong Lin had actually pulled out a weapon. From the shape of the weapon, it looked like a one-handed staff. There was a bright, white gem embedded in the front. The overall design was exquisite. This was definitely a godly weapon. Ling Xingwen's lips curled into a cruel smile. Let's see how you're going to block Berserk Explosion. Fong Lin waved her hand fiercely. The gem on the staff immediately shot out a rainbow-colored beam of light that was as thick as an arm. In an instant, the night turned into day. The ground cracked open, and the entire ice mountain shook. The scene was extremely magnificent. In fact, this move was the 5 beams of white light that shot out from her 5 fingertips. This martial art technique was called the holy light of the ice spirit. However, with the conversion of the staff, the energy of the holy light of the ice spirit was multiplied. Pan! Ding Ming raised his hand to block the holy light. Whoa! Ding Ming's hand actually let out a strange howl that sounded like a demon's. At the same time, the ground around them kept exploding. Ice shards that were dozens of meters high rose into the air. This was enough to show how powerful the energy was. At first, most people thought that Ding Ming was going to be in trouble. However, as time passed, something unbelievable happened. Ding Ming held the holy light in one hand and slowly walked toward Fong Lin. Impossible. Ling Xingwen was shocked. Ling Xingqi was also shocked. To be able to block such a large amount of ice energy, it meant that the heat of Berserk explosion was extremely powerful. Otherwise, he must have used a secret technique. This person is not Ding Ming. Ling Xingwen muttered. Ding Ming can't be this strong. Ling Xingqi said calmly. I'm just afraid that this person is Ding Ming. Ding Ming continued to advance against the holy light. At this moment, the distance between the two of them was less than 50 meters. He even spoke casually, "Isn't it time to use your ice god's nirvana art now?" The livestream channels of both parties were in an uproar. Although the fans were ordinary people, they had heard of many things before. The ice god's nirvana art was a legendary 9-star martial art in the Holy Grail Federation. That level basically meant that it was the most powerful martial art in the Federation. Hearing this, Fong Lin was shocked and cried out involuntarily, "So it's you." "It's me." Ding Ming didn't deny it. "You can admit defeat." Fong Lin was furious. "In your dreams." A strange energy, led by ice energy, entered his body through his palm, and the 3 origin points that were operating well immediately slowed down. This energy was actually the holy light energy. Ding Ming was truly shocked. Seeing that Ding Ming had been pushed back, Fong Lin flew up from the ground and hovered in midair. Then she gripped her staff with both hands and slammed it down. Woo! A giant pillar of pure white light appeared. It was like a giant tree that supported the entire night sky. It was straight, huge, and vast. It was simply magnificent and brilliant. This was indeed the ice god's nirvana art. However, compared to the ice god's nirvana art from before, the scale of this attack was at least 5 times larger. If there were other experts on the map, they would immediately be able to sense and calculate that Fong Lin's origin energy index was at least 100 billion points. This was already the limit of an advanced level war god. The white light flowed, and it felt as if the ground below was melting. Only pure white light remained between heaven and earth. Finally, the outline of a glowing human face appeared within the pillar of light. The human face was vivid and lifelike, just like the face of a goddess. It rapidly descended, and in that instant, it was as if an ancient miracle had appeared in the void. This scene shocked all the spectators. Everyone was dumbfounded and had dazzled expressions. The big screen of the official broadcast showed that the number of online viewers for this match had already broken through the 400 million mark. This was a rare, classic battle. The Ice God's Nirvana art lasted for a full 30 seconds before stopping. Several hundred million viewers stared with their eyes and mouths wide open. Ding Ming had already disappeared, and a giant crater with a diameter of 100 meters had been blasted into the ground. It was so dark that the bottom couldn't be seen. Oh my God, she's already invincible. Damn, she can deal with an entire starship by herself, right? Where's Boss? He can't be gone just like that, right? I think he's probably gone. Fong Lin's expression was serious as she stared at the black hole in the ground. She would not repeat the same mistake and assume that Ding Ming had already died. This was because the system's subtitles had not appeared yet, proving that Ding Ming was still alive. However, there was no one on the entire mountain now. Suddenly, she thought of a possibility. Back then, Ding Ming could also fly. Could he have flown above her head? However, when she looked up, the sky was also dark. There was no sign of Ding Ming at all. At this moment, she finally understood where Ding Ming was. Ding Ming was at the bottom of the black hole. When the Ice God's Nirvana art was unleashed, Ding Ming also knew that he could not use his physical body to withstand it like he had in the past. In a moment of crisis, the shadow of a butterfly appeared in his palm. This was the combination of the Sovereign's Mark and the Divine Light singularity. It also meant that the smelting space had been transferred to his palm. His thought process was very simple. Fong Lin, just unleash your ultimate move. The Sovereign's Mark could absorb all of your Divine Light energy into the smelting space. When you're done unleashing your ultimate move, I'll use your own energy to deal with you. That's not how you should use your Divine Light energy. While the hundreds of millions of fans were still in shock, the black hole in the ground released a torrent of source power with a boom. It was like a volcanic eruption, and large amounts of magma shot into the sky. This torrent was Ding Ming's counterattack. Fong Lin did not even think about it. She waved her hand, and a white ice wall appeared in the night sky. Its size was comparable to a small starship. The torrent was immediately suppressed, but the ice wall was also melting bit by bit. Suddenly, a rainbow-colored saber emerged from the white mist. This was clearly the Blazing Sun Battle Vein, but this time, the Blazing Sun Battle Vein was different from the previous one. Fong Lin instantly sensed the terrifying energy contained in the saber. The moment the saber appeared, she felt that it was very difficult to breathe. This was definitely Ding Ming's ultimate move. In fact, she was overthinking it. Ding Ming was nothing more than using the first 5 origins to gather Fong Lin's energy. He then supplemented it with a portion of his own Divine Light essence and sent it back in the form of the Blazing Sun Battle Vein. In Fong Lin's eyes, this saber was extremely ferocious, but to Ding Ming, it was nothing. Fong Lin might seem powerful to outsiders, but Ding Ming had never treated her as an opponent. Whoosh! An even larger ice wall appeared in the sky. However, at the same time, the ice wall also turned into white mist with a whoosh. The saber was only slightly slowed down, but it still flew up like a rocket with a rainbow-colored tail. Fong Lin's expression changed. She waved her staff several times, and many ice walls appeared in the sky this time. Together, they formed a magnificent fortress like an ice palace. Boom! There was a shocking explosion. The saber sank into the ice palace, and the ice palace was torn apart. The expressions of Ling Xingwen and the others also changed. Even this can't stop it. Indeed, it could not be stopped. The saber was controlled by telekinesis and flew towards Fong Lin as if it had grown eyes. Fong Lin did not have time to use her dark ice power. Clang! A rainbow-colored shield in the shape of a rhombus leaf wrapped around Fong Lin. The saber hit the surface with a thump. This time, the shield did not shatter directly, but only a few cracks appeared. However, in Fong Lin's eyes, this was extremely terrifying. This was because the saber seemed to contain an endless amount of energy.